Boys and ghouls, it's October, it's spooky season, which means it's time to once again bone up on all the slashers, zombie flicks, body horror, supernatural thrillers, ghost stories, and all the other subgenres. But I thought it'd be fun today to go back and look at the films I've already covered leading up to October of 2025, because there's been a good chunk of them. And on top of that, I'm gonna give them a ranking from worst to best. If you find yourself enjoying the video, feel free to give me a sub at Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Now, without any further ado, let's begin with the ranking. Number 26. Everybody knows Peter Pan. Lovable character, little mischief. Lost boy, has a feather in his cap, flies around, has a friend that's a fairy, who trips balls on pixie dust. Peter's in the other room choking out a kid. You know, Peter Pan, we all love him. No, something must have been lost in translation over the years, because I just saw Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, and this isn't quite the fancy-free adventure I remember. Let's review whatever this thing was. From the brilliant mind behind Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, you will never hear another person say that sentence, comes his directorial debut into the Twisted Childhood universe, rebranded from the previous Pooniverse. And they say humans are getting dumber. As I sat in the theater watching this hour-and-a-half film with about 5 other questionable-looking individuals, I thought to myself, you know, Adam, I'm actually really happy for director Scott Chambers, who's one of the overseers of this entire shit show, because he's making his dreams a reality. While I'm sitting in this cold-ass theater, freezing my dick off with a bunch of asshats, watching something that's the equivalent of a dog taking a shit in my cereal as I'm trying to eat. Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare and this entire Pooniverse situation is clearly not for me. And it's not because of the low budget and effects, all right? And in fact, Scott does a good job for what he clearly doesn't have. There is some suspense in the movie, shots are framed up well, the shaky cam isn't overdone, some of the visuals are haunting and they do work, but then you have a whole lot of other stuff that doesn't. Again, they're doing this on the cheap, because we're talking about a real niche market here. If you liked Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and if you loved Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, why? You, I don't think, have any reason to watch me talk about this, because we are clearly not going to see eye to eye on things. Now, to Peter Pan's credit, I think that this film is better done than those previous 2 entries. Doesn't necessarily mean it's better or more entertaining. It's just, I think, the best looking of the 3. There are a bunch of editing issues for sure. Things don't line up in the timeline. We jump all over the place from day to night instantaneously. And the character decisions in the last 45 minutes or so, oh my God. No one tries to check a door. No one ever tries to check a front door when escaping a home. It's absolutely insane. I'm gonna refrain from spoilers, although I don't know why. If this video does okay, maybe I'll do a spoiler video to follow. So make sure to subscribe if you want to hear more about the Pooniverse to come. But let's break down the story. What do we have to work with? We have a film that's nothing like Peter Pan. Instead, we have Martin Porlock playing 2 different versions of Peter at any given time. He has this loving, carefree Peter that's gonna be a poor ripoff of Pennywise from the It movies. And he's gonna have his more serious, stern version that's essentially just Heath Ledger's Joker. But obviously, not. Complete with licking the sides of his mouth. You wanna go to Neverland? You wanna go to Neverland? Huh? It's okay, Neverland's a fun place. It's fun, everybody floats in Neverland. That's basically what he's doing. In fact, there is a scene very early on to set the stage where he peekaboos up from under the floorboards, only his eyes really being pronounced. It is a straight up ripoff of the sewer scene from the first It movie, complete with a conversation with the boy trying to pull him in. Oh, and Peter is also part of a traveling circus. Where does that sound familiar? Oh, Pennywise, that's right. You could argue this is intentional. It's an homage to the character. I mean, he has red balloons at one point. So what? How about not do that and create your own character? Because all I see is a budget version. And that's too bad, because the actors clearly put in the work in. And everyone in this movie is actually doing a fine job with their roles. The problem is I fundamentally disagree with the approach they're taking. You see, when Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey was announced, there was a lot of chuckles, there was some grins, there was some excitement, like, wow, we are really gonna have fun with this. And then they did not have any fun with it. They treated it very serious. Well, then the sequel gets announced because the first one made money, and people thought, all right, now they can finally let loose and have some fun. They had no fun. And in fact, they doubled down on the horror elements. And so Peter Pan takes it and goes even further. There are zero jokes in this. There's no observational humor. There's no memes. There's no meta commentary. It is straight up a schlocky horror film with a few scenes that are a bit Terrifier in nature with some of the violent kills. But if I point to Terrifier, we at least have a unique character and a premise that's fun, and it is funny. Like, there's a lot of humorous parts in this movie, which makes Art the Clown and the Terrifier series far more memorable. If you don't care about the story and anything, and you just really love watching people get murdered, there's some decent kills in this. Early on, we get a pretty brutal one, and then there's a good lull. There's a good lull in the middle of the movie where not a lot happens. They're just building up this stupid lore and whatnot. And then the final, like I said, 45 minutes is essentially just a haunted house running from room to room. And none of the characters can ever seem to be in the same room at the same time. So you have siblings, for instance. They're in this house. They're trying to get out. So they split up constantly. Never the two shall intertwine. And neither ever tries a fucking front door. They're always going back and forth like a Scooby-Doo show through the same four doors. Just as far as tie-ins to the stories, the animated Disney classic, it's so loose and herky-jerky, it's completely irrelevant. Like, there's a TV playing black and white footage of crocodile attacks. There's your reference. The Island of the Lost Boys is only told through storybook photos that look like they were done in an afternoon. If you're looking for jump scares, this one does have a good chunk, and they worked pretty well. The audience I was with, granted, I'm not sure they were the sharpest bunch. They were jumping quite a bit during the movie, and it got me a couple times too. I was like, oh God, I'm one of them. I'm part of this. I'm part of the Poohverse! Next week, I'll be doing a review in a Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey t-shirt. I'm just all in. Oh, God. Oh, God. So the overall plot is very basic. Peter is a disturbed individual. He's kidnapping young boys so he can bring them to Neverland, which means just killing them. One of the kids that's taken is Michael. And so for the majority of the film, he's gonna be struggling to survive in this haunted house while his sister Wendy is hoping to get to him. But she's gonna face a lot of obstacles on the way, the primary one being not having a charged phone. You would think if your brother went missing, you would make sure that bad boy's plugged in and charged. But what do you do? No, so she's gonna really have a hard time making it a mission to find a plug for her phone. I shit you not. There's a plot point where she's... There's a plot point where she breaks into the house just to find an outlet for her phone. It's so stupid. Nobody tries leaving a front door. This house consists of like 4 rooms and a hallway. There are a couple car scenes. They're all clearly done in the same green screen thing. And what they did is they just projected over the top of the car this like fast moving effect of trees and stuff going by to give the illusion that it's the glare off the window. So, driving and then just stuff whipping by in the foreground. It's hilarious because the speed this thing is moving at looks to be about 60 miles per hour. That's how fast they're driving. And the reason that's funny is because right away when the movie starts, like 15 minutes in, Michael says to his sister he wants to bike to school. Well, they get in the car, they drive to the school and have a fucking full conversation while going 60 miles an hour for a long ass stretch of time. There's no way Michael's getting to school in less than an hour on bike. And also some of the shots they show of the road and the area, there's nowhere to even bike. There's no sidewalks, there's no shoulders. It's just straight up a 2-lane road and woods. As far as the kills themselves, I mentioned there is a bit of that Terrifier flavor, and I mean it. There's some brutal stuff in here. Glass getting pulled out of necks, arms being broken and then completely ripped off. It's pretty gross, but I'm so desensitized by it. And the fact that they're doing a Peter Pan thing, you would hope but we know better now 3 movies in, that they would play off some of the characters' abilities. Like maybe he could fly and just drop someone from the sky. Or maybe he takes a kid to Neverland and throws him into a croc's mouth. Just things like that that could elevate the material, but instead it's another bare bones horror film with the popular name attached to it. This movie is an hour and a half long, it is rated R of course, and it's not very good. And it feels like it had enough story for about 35 to 40 minutes, because like I said, the final third of this film is all just running around this house, and it's just boring. But how does it tie into Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey? How are we gonna bring these characters together? Does Thumper come out of the woods with an eye patch on like Nick Fury, smoking a cigar going, "It's time to assemble the childhood classic characters"? The answer is I don't know. I didn't stick around once those credits started to hit. Maybe there's a post-credit scene. I couldn't tell you. But I can tell you this, the Twisted Childhood universe is so far 0 for 3 for me. Can't wait for Bambi! Number 25. Hey there, fans of horror, and whatever people who like these movies are called. I'm talking about Screamboat today, a new movie that has that Twisted Childhood universe stank to it, but I actually think it's done in a better way. Let's talk about it in we'll do a spoiler review, I think. I think that's fine for this. Let's begin. If you're not familiar with the film Screamboat, I don't blame you. You might be familiar with Steamboat Willie, though, which is one of the original animated Mickey Mouse classic cartoons by Walt Disney himself. Screamboat is a playoff of that. Why isn't it called Screamboat Willie? I have no idea, but copyright, trademark, whatever it is, gross. This film seems to get away with a lot more, though, and I appreciate that aspect. In fact, the biggest praise I'm going to give this movie right out of the gates is that it's better than those shitty Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey movies and that Peter Pan thing. Now, I don't want you to get my words twisted and in front of me. I said something similar about Snow White, that Rachel Zegler treat that everybody loves. In that review, I started out by saying, hey, I don't like the Disney live action movies. Translation, I don't like Snow White. However, out of all the live action crap, it's on the better side. The better side of crap. Some people were confused. They're like, what, you like this movie? You love Snow White? What is wrong with you? No, idiots, I don't. I said it's fine for parents and children who plan on going to it. They will not have a bad time because they have already decided in their infinite wisdom that they should support shitty films like this. As a critic, it's tricky because I try to look at things from not just my viewpoint, but also the vantage point of the target demographic. So for a live action Disney movie, that's not me. I wouldn't waste my time or money going to it, but I'm reviewing it, so I did. And when we jump into the dark, twisted Disney side of things, look at that, I find myself in the same boat. Subscribe for bad puns. Yeah, I don't like these movies either. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna talk about this film, tell you why I don't like it, and why you might. So before I jump into the spoilers, let me do this. If you are a fan of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 1 and 2, why? And also, that's great. I'm happy for you. I'm glad you like whatever this stuff is. You're probably gonna love Screamboat because I do think it's easily the best of this whole shit show so far. Keep in mind, this is separate. This is not part of that universe thing. It's its own entity, directed, written by other people. If you're going for the kills and the gore, there's a good amount of it here. There is some gore for sure. The kills can be creative at times. They can also be really terrible looking at others. We're talking about a very low budget movie again here, folks. This is the type of film that normally would have gone straight to DVD, straight to VHS at the Mr. Movies. It'd be on the top shelf or on the bottom shelf, one of the shelves that's not the prominent one where people will look for films. It's also the type of movie you would see playing at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're hungover. You would find Screamboat, along with these other shit show films, wedged in between some movie where there's a shark fighting a megalodon, fighting a snake, hybrid alligator thing. These are, for all intents and purposes, pretty awful movies, but can be enjoyed because they're awful movies. Where I think Screamboat correctly goes, that the other ones didn't, is it knows it's stupid and it has fun for once with the material, because the plot here is simple. We have a ferry that I guess at one point was operating as a steamboat. It's going to carry a bunch of passengers around the Statue of Liberty. I'm not really sure where the destination was. The boat just seems to be going in circles for hours. It's quite maddening. And it's going to range from looking pretty bad to looking, that's okay. Unfortunately for these passengers, which there were more of than I thought there would be for a low budget film, I was actually impressed. There was kind of a full roster of people. None of them are fleshed out in the slightest, and some of them are comically missing any character development. A child and his mother, for instance, is laughably bad. I digress. These passengers are going to have to deal with a crazed killer mouse who goes by the name of Willie. Willie is large for a mouse, but he is still only up to about people's knees, which does give some of the killing a bit of creativity, but it also unfortunately is going to mean a good 50% of them are basically going to be close-up, shaky cam shots of him scrambling around the bodies, and you'll hear biting sound effects and some blood pulsating out and whatever else gets people off these days. The big draw to this character, though, is going to be who plays him, which is David Howard Thornton. He's become a big name in the horror industry, as he's now played Art the Clown several times and absolutely owns as that individual. I dig Art the Clown. I like the Terrifier movies, so I'm not squeamish around the excessive blood and gore. I think it's fun when it's used correctly. And those Terrifier movies, I do think they're getting a bit up their own ass at this point as far as the lore building. That seems to be a bit too much, but I still have a lot of fun with them. Certainly not for everyone, though. It's also a little misleading to say David Howard Thornton plays Willie, because he's not in it for a lot. Most of the time you see our little mouse killer, it's just his feet walking around or shadows on the walls. It's not until the second half where Thornton's gonna get more time to do his thing, but even then, because of how terribly designed this mouse is, it's hard to really get a performance from him because everything's blended together. It's a gray, scruffy, gross, wet-looking mouse that just leaves no room for any creative expression. It also looks like he's wearing a diaper. I know it's supposed to be his little sailor shorts, but it's not coming off well at all. It's all around just a really fugly looking design. Now, I mentioned this movie has a lot more fun with the material, and I do mean that. Not only are there a lot of musical cues to Steamboat Willie, there's also just a ton of references to Disney movies. Lines people say, things you'll see in the backgrounds. It's always implemented in the cheesiest third grade level writing style of way, but it's still at least something. It's at least in on its own joke instead of thinking it's some serious cinematic universe worth exploring. All right, so the big takeaway here, if you're a fan of these types of movies, Screamboat's gonna be a win for you. I don't see any way around it. If you gave Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 1 and 2 a shot and they're not for you, Screamboat is better, but it's not. This is not what I consider a good movie. I would not spend your hard-earned money going out to watch it unless you have the right group of people you can go with and laugh at the absurdity. Then I suppose it's a good time, because at the end of the day, you're trying to be entertained. All right, I'm gonna jump into spoilers now, so tread lightly for Screamboat. The first thing I'll point out is the movie starts with a quote from Disney, and then it actually has an animated film strip style cartoon of Steamboat Willie, but Disney is driving. Walt is driving the boat, and I was like, oh God, please don't do this in bad taste. Don't like slaughter Walt or make him like some psychotic creature or something. Thankfully, they did keep him as just like a nice, friendly guy who for some reason befriended a experiment rat that was on the steamboat. This is the backstory for Steamboat Willie. It's so stupid. And it turns out Steamboat Willie fell in love with a female rat. They don't ever say the name. I imagine it's Minnie, but then that would make him Mickey. It's all kind of convoluted and dumb. But she gets thrust overboard along with Disney, and Willie is casted down into a box, locked away for many, many years, up until recently. And when I say cast down into a box, I mean it. I don't know what this is supposed to be on a ship. Apparently ships just have a box cut out of the floor with a trap door on it that they throw shit in. I guess they throw in evil rats or something, because that's where he's at. And the movie opens with a couple actors doing really impressively bad New York accents, really hamming it up. Hey, I'm working here. Oh man, this is part of one of those steamships. This is gonna be worth a fortune. Help me break this thing off. He opens it up and steam comes out along with our evil rat. And the first half of this movie, it's trying to do a Jaws thing, keeping him in the shadows. You only get little teases of his feet. He does the whistling. And after that pretty terrible intro, we get to meet our lead hero of the film. It's going to be our final girl. Have to have that every time. Her name is Selena, and she's played by Allison Patel. Selena is very unlikable. She's the fish out of water character. She's new in New York. The city's eating her alive. She wants to move back to Minnesota. Hey, I'm moving back to Minnesota. I'll see you there. Selena constantly rolls her eyes, doesn't want to be around anyone, just has kind of a chips are down shit attitude. She looks good though. I'll give her that. I suppose it's fair she has a bad attitude when she has to be on a boat with a bunch of dipshits. Again, there's a large cast of people in this movie. I would say arguably a little too large for what they're doing here. It was kind of hard to remember who was who and what was going on. This felt like the type of cast you would get in something in A Day After Tomorrow or a Independence Day, where you have like 8 different little stories happening on the ship and you're just trying to kind of remember them all and see who comes together. But this story is not near smart enough to bring it together in any sort of a cohesive way. So it's just randomly jumps around here and there. The lighting never matches well. There is one scene pretty early on when Serena, I already forgot her name, whatever it is, Selena, she informs people that she saw the Rat King dunking one of the dudes on the side of the boat. When she runs into this shot, she is clearly in front of a green screen, and they never show her and the rest of the crew on the screen at the same time again. Obviously some reshoots happened or something behind the scenes was not fitting right, because every time they jumped camera angles, it looked terrible. But anyway, it does not take long for Willie to go around and start killing people. Why is he doing this? Unclear. We know he wants to see his girlfriend again, but that doesn't mean he has to start slaughtering everyone. There's really not a good explanation for any of it. It's not that you need one when you're watching a film like this. You're just there for the unbridled killing, maybe a little bit of a nip slip once in a while. There is some nudity. I forgot to mention that. We do have a topless scene. It's not good. Not ideal, but whatever. It is what it is. It does lead to a funny moment where she gives her boyfriend head. Willie jumps in, slices the penis off. You see it flop around on the ground, and then he's like, ugh, gross, I don't want to touch that. Later on, he will use the severed penis and drop it on an unsuspecting victim who will get it in his mouth. That's just good writing. I think my favorite scene in the movie, because it's so awfully done, is you have a large ensemble cast in this room. Willie comes in with the hose. I don't know what the hose is even hooked to. He just kind of busts it out of his ass. He starts spraying everyone down, and then he just smashes the hose against the side of something, which causes a massive amount of electricity to run through the entire area, frying everybody. A couple people blow up. It has this really bad electricity effect. You can barely see what the hell's going on. Looks terrible, but I guess it was a really easy way to kill off a lot of people fast. He's now motherless, which is sad. For someone, not him. He doesn't seem to care at all. Never shows emotion about it. I'm trying to think if there's any other really fun, noteworthy kills to talk about in the film. A lot of times, Willie's just kind of hopping on people and gnawing at them, ripping out their innards. At one time, he's sitting on the shitter and he's just chewing on someone's arm. Oh my fuck, I almost forgot about the 5 gals. We have the drunken crew of party ladies on the boat. It's Cinderella's birthday. It's not her real name, but she's dressed like Cinderella, and the other ladies are dressed like other Disney princesses. They're going to be the ones that are going to say a lot of the Disney lines in the film. A lot of the puns you're going to hear are going to come from them. They're definitely going to be obnoxious. This movie is going to spend a bizarre amount of time on 2 of them doing that weird sex face where you cross your eyes and you stick out your tongue. I truly don't know what the kids are into these days, but they spent a good chunk of time on that while Willie tries to fire up the forklift and smash their faces in. Thankfully, he eventually does, but that scene went on far too long. By the time the film winds down, you only have 3 or 4 people left. And the unlikable gal from Minnesota realizes that Steamboat Willie misses his girlfriend. Thankfully, she had a polka dot bag on her, and she saw a photo of the female mouse, the Minnie, we're gonna call her, who was wearing a polka dot dress. There's also a bunch of garbs she's able to go through, and she dresses herself up as Minnie to trick this little fucker. He goes over, tries to serenade her, and eventually she's gonna jam scissors down his head, tossing him over the side of the boat, and I'm sure he's definitely dead and not gonna wind up showing up at the end credits. He shows up before the credits even start. Right before we get there, though, another favorite scene of mine is we're immediately off the boat now, and a couple of the people that survived are in blankets, and the dad of the child who just lost his mother walks over. Hey, thanks for saving my son. It's like, what? What? It was so random. It was just hilarious how it kind of came to be. But I digress. The end of the film, we see a bunch of trash, and there's our lovable Willie with the scissors in his head. And you see out of the corner of the frame, Minnie's polka dot dress come into view. He gets a big smile on his face, and we circle out to black. What a film. What an achievement in cinema. Well, there you have it, Screamboat. There is so much more to say, but it's almost impossible to really critique a movie like this when it's just nonsense from front to back. It's trying to be serious at times. At other times, it's clearly in on its own joke and having fun. It's a challenge. These movies are too low budget for what they're trying to do. Their aspirations are a little higher than their bank accounts. Is it worth it at the end of the day? I guess. They're making money. They're obviously having a good time, and they're finding an audience. So what the fuck do I know? Number 24. Look out, Pennywise. Heads up, Art, because there's a brand new clown in town, and he's slashing his way through a cornfield to you. Sounds like a fun premise. Sounds like a fun premise. It's been a day, which means 18 more slasher films have been released. One went to theaters called Clown in the Cornfield, and I'm gonna review it right now. Now, the first part of this review is going to be spoiler-free. Later, I'll get into spoilers, but it's going to be down the road, and rest assured, I will let you know before I get there. So let's just get a top-down idea of what we have to work with. This is an R-rated film. According to IMDb, it's an hour and 36 minutes long. We'll just say an hour and a half. It's a 90-minute film. And it's directed by Eli Craig, a name I haven't heard in quite some time. The last film I saw by him was Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. If you haven't seen that movie and you're into the slasher genre, highly recommend. It's very clever, it's witty, it takes the genre and kind of flips it a little bit. The dumb country bumpkins are actually the victims in this film. Very fun ideas. None of that can really be applied to his new movie, Clown in the Cornfield, unfortunately. And as this movie was winding down, I found myself feeling like a clown in a movie theater because nothing about this movie added up. It has a ridiculous premise that gets all the more insane the further it goes along, and if you enjoy it, that's perfectly understandable, because there are a lot of people that don't really care about the plots. They're just here for some gore and some good old-fashioned crazy shit taking place. And good news for you, if you fall into that camp, it has that. This is not a bad-looking movie. It runs very well. That 90 minutes is not wasted. It has some good gore. There are one or two creative kills and a lot of familiar stuff. And that's kind of where I stop with the compliments. Katie Douglas plays the final girl in this film. Her name is Quinn. I hate her. She's unlikable. She's a brat. She lost her mom a while back, and her and her dad packed up and they moved to bumfuck America in some small woods country with a lot of weirdos. Her dad's a doctor. He kind of lost it at the hospital he was working at before, so now they're setting up shop, starting anew. He's got a little practice he's running. They live in a pretty smelly, gross house. That plot point's gonna go nowhere. I guess it's to kind of just set the stage for a lot of stuff that's gonna be brought up, seem like it'll be important, and then be completely forgotten about later. For instance, the fact that she has a dead mom really does nothing for the story because Quinn is not a sympathetic character in the slightest. In fact, the only real characteristic she has for most of the movie is she really needs Wi-Fi to be on her phone 24/7. It's of paramount importance to her. She will meet up with a bunch of garbage kids in the town. They're gonna terrorize the teacher and just be all around kind of trash people. I don't care about any of this, Adam. Shut up. How about the clown? I'm here for the clown in the cornfield. Bad news for you, friend. The clown in a cornfield is not going to be replacing or even matching Pennywise or Art the Clown in any capacity whatsoever. There's nothing memorable about this thing. He's just got floppy feet and a squeezy red nose, and apparently likes to leave a keepsake of a wind-up box before killing its victims. As far as the scares go, there are zero to be found. This is not a scary movie. It's not one of those cheap jump scare things either. It really just has nothing that I'm like, oh my God, what's gonna happen now? No, this is kind of a silly, somewhat tongue-in-cheek at times film that never really lands on anything properly. The gore isn't extreme enough to be impressive at all. The kills aren't creative enough to be memorable at all. The closest thing I could reference this to would be Thanksgiving from Eli Roth. Now, I happen to really enjoy Thanksgiving. That was a lot of fun, and I thought it did carry through with the themes throughout the movie, and it did at least make sense when the reveals came out. Clown in the Cornfield ratchets up by the final act to such a stupid, uninteresting degree that I just found myself going, all right, are we almost done here? When is this over? Which I guess will lead me already into the spoiler territory, because there's just really not much else for me to say. If you love slashers and plot means nothing to you, yeah, you're gonna get entertained for 90 minutes. That's no problem. All right, let's get to some spoilers. You have been warned. This is not a recommendation for me. However, if you fall into the camp, like I mentioned, sure, go on, have some dumb fun with it. You might find yourself enjoying it. Plenty of people are. All right, so Quinn and her father set up shop in this new town. She immediately finds some trash friends to hang out with. She falls for one of the guys who seems to be into her as well, only we'll find out later that, yeah, he's actually gay, and he likes the hunter kid who's been, his name's not Hunter, he's an actual hunter. He goes around at night and shoots deers and shit. That's his thing. They have a history. And thankfully, we'll end up together once this movie winds down. But much like Thanksgiving, Clown in a Cornfield is setting up a mystery killer. Who is the evil underneath this mask that's going around killing unsuspecting kids randomly throughout time? Because yes, this has been going on for a very long time. The 60s, the 70s, the 80s. Every so often, a purge takes place, and a bunch of teenagers are taken out. I know this because the villain monologues it at the end of the movie, while Quinn, one of the only survivors in the teenage group, is held captive. Why did they keep her alive and no one else? Unclear. What makes her special? Absolutely nothing. In fact, out of all the teenagers, she should be there the least because she just moved into the town. They barely know who this person is. So anyway, the town they're in really lived and breathed by the factory that used to be there called Bay Pen. And their mascot was a clown, not even a creepy one, just a lame clown. Well, a few months back, the factory burned down and they pinned it on the teenagers. Officially, it was some faulty wiring, but they happened to be filming their own killer clown movie in there. So it was just bad timing for them. And also, they do kind of just suck in general. Anyway, the mayor of the town, in his infinite wisdom, decided that today's the day that we're going to go kill these teenagers. And so I guess he got on the group chat with the other clown killers and was like, hey, time to get back to work. Because it's not just one killer in this movie. No, it's like 30. There are a lot of crazed clowns. They're just regular folks, part of this cult, I suppose. And they decide when it's time to enact a plot to take out some of the bad seeds that have started to pollute the old-fashioned ways of the town. It's an insane premise, and it gets more crazy when they start killing people. So by the way, no one has parents. None of these teenagers have parents, except for the main girl. She has a dad who's a doctor. Everyone else just apparently lives in these houses alone because the first friend that dies is in the middle of the night. They don't find out he's killed for days. It's not on the news. The parents don't find the body. The next kid that dies is working out and the clown goes above him, puts a little saw blade underneath the bench press and goes onto his face. I enjoyed that kill. It was fun. No parents around. They never find the body. It's never reported on. Where are these people? It's just a smallish gripe. It really doesn't matter because then we're gonna go to a party and that's when a whole bunch of these clowns are gonna come out and they have targeted this friend group. And after killing most of them off, like I said, they take Quinn to this factory that's burned down, and the cop's there, who's played by Will Sasso. I really enjoy Will Sasso. He's always fun. He's part of it. The mayor's part of it. The diner waitress is part of it. Just basically every random person that was in the movie at some point is one of these insane clown posse killers. Quinn's boyfriend, Cole, is also there. He's the son of the mayor, and also the mayor hates him because Cole lost a sister back in the Diz, which is of course slang for back in the day, and the mayor blames him for the loss of that daughter. We don't get a scene involving them. This is just mentioned one time that Cole lost a sister. Really has no reason to be in the story at all because the mayor already hates his son regardless of the sister. That was just like another cherry on top of this ass sundae. And so he's gonna hang his son in front of Quinn. Why? Why the pageantry? Why is this happening? Again, just kill them. Luckily, Quinn's father, Dr. Glenn, saves the day by blowing his car through the side of the factory and taking out 2 or 3 of them. It's a good thing he knew what was on the other side of the wall outside because he has Superman X-ray vision. What the fuck? He just took a chance and blew through a random wall at the factory? Come on! Anyway, he was previously out looking for his daughter because naturally she's been sneaking out of the house at night at a place they just moved to after losing their mother and wife. Makes sense. She's a great girl. So he's outside looking for her in the middle of the night and sees that his new little clinic has been broken into. And so he goes inside to investigate only to find out a couple of clowns are in there. One that had his arm shot off by the hunter kid and the other one who I guess was waiting for the doctor to show up in the middle of the night. Why didn't they go to his house and grab him? What was this? What was this scene even? But he overheard what was happening on the walkie, was able to kill the clown there, and then yeah, he hightailed it across the cornfield, over the river, into the woods he goes to find his daughter. And not a moment too soon because shit was about to go down. The kid's hanging up there, the daughter's in dire straits, and the dad's able to take out a couple of those clowns just in time to see the final bad guy, which is the mayor. And by the way, all the clowns have clown masks on, except for the main guy, the mayor, who is wearing Joker face. He's straight up the Joker in this. And this whole scene ends in the most ridiculous way possible. The kid's hanging, the dad's hurt on the ground, and Joker gets in the vehicle and backs out and just takes off. Gets away scot-free. I'll see you in the next movie. They never mention him after this. So the 2 gay guys live, Quinn lives, and her father happily ever after. We jump forward in time. Quinn has now graduated high school and she's off. And she's leaving the country, gonna go somewhere more promising. Really anywhere would be more promising. Her dad says bye. They give her a baton for a weapon gift. And again, we never hear about the mayor. What is going on? I also want to point out there's these jack-in-the-box wind-up things. I mentioned it earlier. They get left in different locations. There's one point where they go into a home. There's a clown downstairs. They go up the stairs, and there's one of those jack-in-the-box things on a stack of papers or some shit. It starts playing on its own. This is not a supernatural movie in any sense of the word. How did that start playing? I want to know, movie. I want to know how that jack-in-the-box started fucking working on its own. It made no sense. But that scene was funny because there's a dial-up phone, one of those rotary phones where you have to go 1, 3. They're just kind of pushing in, and I was like, that's funny. That is something they would do. I want to point one other thing out. During the escape, I almost forgot. When they get in the car, the daughter's just learning how to use a clutch. She doesn't really know. The dad's like, oh, put it into 1 and then ease up. While they're doing this, one more bad guy clown is standing in front of them. He only looks to be about 20 feet out in front. Anyway, the dad goes, step on it, honey. She punches it, which means this piece of shit car is going from 0 to maybe 20 miles an hour. But when they hit this dude, he is absolutely eviscerated. There is nothing left of his body but whoosh, blood on the windshield. And then it was odd because up until that point, yeah, there was some lavish kills, but they were not that extreme. They were not Terrifier levels of gross. In fact, nothing was gross at all. That wasn't either. That was just kind of dumb and silly and made no sense. So again, it just was a little all over the place in terms of the tone. And yes, I know I'm all over the place in terms of this review, but I treat these as more of just a conversational piece after seeing the movie. I give you a review and then I do like this vomit recap, trying to kind of relive the magic that was the film. And hopefully I was able to paint you a bit of a picture. Number 23, The Idiot Convention continues with The Strangers, Chapter 2, part of a Chex Notes trilogy of stupid films. Why is this 3 movies? I don't know, but I'm going to tell you why this movie is a waste of your time. Let's begin with a spoiler-free review. Cold off the heels of the last Strangers film, this hour-and-a-half R-rated sequel puts us right in the hospital bed where we last left our poor Maya. But before I tell you whether or not she flatlines within the first 5 minutes, make sure to subscribe to Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. That way you won't miss any of my movie-related content in the future, and you can even look forward to a spoiler recap of The Strangers Chapter 2 just down the road. But I am gonna spoil the first 30 seconds of the movie. Maya, unfortunately, lives. And we join her in that hospital bed as she tries to overcome the trauma of the last movie in that cabin where her fiancé was unfortunately killed. Unfortunately for her, I wanted them both to die within 10 minutes of the film starting. Because The Strangers Chapter 1 was unbelievably stupid. Like, I understand giving some grace to characters making poor choices. That's how you get a lot of the horror movies that you get. But these people go out of their way to do dumb. Like, oh, there's a noise over there. We should probably go hide over there in the basement instead of running away. What? These are the kind of things that they did over and over again. At some point, natural selection has to play a part, right? Maya has somehow made it into a sequel, and even though this movie is not quite as egregious with the stupidity, there's still plenty of it on display. Plenty of frustrating scenarios play out where you're like, how do these stupid strangers keep apparating along the countryside and finding this woman, not being able to kill her over and over, but taking out unsuspecting victims? It's like they're super awesome at using a crossbow to pick a person off from across a field, but when Maya's right in front of them, they're like, the damn crossbow again. She's gone. If you're one of the people out of a total of 1 that was sad that Ryan was killed in the first film, and you're probably the actor who played Ryan that I'm talking to, don't worry, he's back as a ghost. We have to have some of those reminders. We got to get that actor his paycheck. So he's going to cameo here and there just as like a stiff body, winking at the camera, tipping the hat once in a while. I'm in this as a corpse. For the most part, this movie is going to focus squarely on the shoulders of Madeline Petch. Since she's pretty much a one-woman army in this, the people she goes up against are wearing masks most of the time, so there's not a lot of acting on display. We have front row tickets to watch her partake in one of the most boring cat and mouse chases you've ever seen put to cinema. This is like playing hide and go seek with a 3-year-old, and after a while, you just get so tired, you end up taking a nap in the closet that you've been hiding in for the last 30 minutes. Like, oh my God, why are we still in the hospital after 25 minutes? Get out of there, you dumbass! She's being stalked once again by Scarecrow Guy, Betty Boop Lady, other porcelain face, doll face thing. And they're even more Casper-like than before, popping in and out like ghosts. Like, bing, I'm here now. Ka-bing! I'm over here now. There's a moment in the film where she puts a fucking pitchfork through one of them. I think part of it went into the vagina. She's like, and right after she stabs him, she's just like, bye. But take the pitchfork and go, what are you doing? Not that it matters, because the person she stabbed seems to have had no injury from it. Imagine getting impaled by a rusty-ass pitchfork in the thigh. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be running around the next day like, oh, nothing happened, let's go play some basketball. But that's what this woman did. When our Maya isn't spending 70% of this movie hiding behind things, we get to watch her stitch up a wound by the creek for what felt like 45 minutes. Sylvania! All of this pairs into one of the most shocking sequences of the film. and easily my favorite moment of the film, which is the reveal of a CGI beast that will stalk her. I won't go into details, but it is fucking hilarious. And you are definitely gonna wanna hear my spoiler video on this and how little sense any of it makes. But oh my God, it was such a pleasant surprise and so much fun to watch. And I wish more of the movie did dumb stuff like this, because when you're this bad, you might as well go all in on the ridiculousness. For those of you wondering if we're gonna learn anything about the strangers, well, yeah, we do get some background on them, which to some people is gonna be a problem because, you know, they're supposed to be strangers. But this film decided, in its infinite wisdom, to give us backstory on some of these people. And you better believe that backstory is dumb as fuck. A lot of horror slasher fans will set aside any story, plot, or even bad acting. Although I will say the main actress is far better in this film, probably because she's not bouncing dialogue off of her buddy Dopey. She's just able to kind of be more visceral in the moment and get more animalistic with the character. And she does a decent job. She does she does good. I feel bad for her being in this movie, but she's making money, so I suppose there's that. She got a trilogy out of it. A lot of horror fans are gonna be here for the kills. And to that I say, you're gonna be disappointed. And the ones that are there are incredibly tame. As for the scares, oh my gods. Grab yourself some earplugs going into this bad boy, because this thing is going to jump scare the shit out of you with the most obnoxiously loud effects you have heard in a movie since The Strangers Chapter 1. Anytime something pops out, it's just the loudest noise ever. I think I had some blood trickle out of my ear during the film. And because of the type of movie Strangers 2 is, you're going to expect that same caliber of audience. Now, there wasn't a full house by any means, but there was a good group of gentlemen towards the back of the theater who had no problem talking through most of it, pretty loudly as well. I almost felt like getting my own Stranger's mask, putting that thing on and grabbing a crossbow. Blood starts pouring out of his throat. I take off the mask. Impale the other guy like 4 times in the head with it. And then for the third, I take out my trusty knife, stick it through its throat, and carve that fucker like a pumpkin. Pop the top off, spin it around, and start pulling out the innards, feeding it to the other friend. You like that? You like that? The scenario I played out is far more thought out than anything in this movie, and I just came up with it on the fly. It's kind of sad that Renny Harlin is once again directing this movie. The guy previously gave us Cliffhanger, Die Hard 2, The Long Kiss Goodnight. He's done some absolute bangers. This ain't it. The Strangers Chapter 2 barely moves the story forward at all, because there's no story really to move forward even. I have no idea how a trilogy got green-lit out of this dumpster fire, but here we are with Chapter 2. There's so little scares, so little action, so little anything to recommend watching out of this. And even the dumb stuff this time around is not that funny outside of the beast scene that I'll get into in the spoiler video. So there you have it. Such a mediocre affair, such a waste of time movie that's only thankfully 90 minutes long, but it feels much longer because of the poor pacing and the slow build of scenes. Everything is padded to hell and back just to get to that 90 minutes because there's nothing here. But unfortunately, we have one more film to go, and I will be there to tell you how poor it is. Number 22. Hope you're having a good day. I'm not. For a movie critic like myself, it's been a tough week at the office. I watched that weekend film, Hurry Up and Wait. Terrible. I watched that Tyler Perry Netflix exclusive Straw. Awful. And late last night, I pulled myself a double feature, going to Bride Hard. Complete absolute ass. And 28 years later, finally, the wave of trash will mercifully wash over me thanks to 28 years later. Cinema has returned. That's what I thought I would say when the film was done. I'd like to talk about 28 years later in a spoiler-free review for a while. Later on, I'm gonna delve into it. Usually I do separate videos for bigger releases, a spoiler-free one and a spoiler-filled one, but I have a lot of movies that I still have to get out on the channel, so let's just burn through this bitch. But before I throw a grown man hissy fit about this film, let's get a couple factoids out of the way. Number one, it's rated R. For blood, for violence, and for infected male genitalia. You know, there's naked men and women all over the place, but some of those alpha men in the movie, we'll get into the alphas in a little bit, they're very well endowed. So much so that I caught myself thinking, what's the story there? What's that all about? Let's go on this adventure and figure out what happened to this guy. Because the movie I'm watching right now has absolutely nothing to offer me. We have all your classic staples returning, throwing up blood, arrows through faces, a couple of old school Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero fatalities. You know, just something for your grandma to enjoy. This film was directed by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland. Alex Garland gave us some pretty awesome movies in the past, such as the fantastic Ex Machina, the crazy Annihilation, the solid Civil War, and that absolute piece of shit Men, where we see several iterations of a guy giving birth to himself out the anus. I'll have what he's having. And speaking of anus, that's kind of where I feel the story went in this one. Like the previous 28 movies, we are going to keep this pretty small scale, following just one family, a husband, a wife, and a son. Jodie Comer plays the wife. Our Craven the Hunter himself is back. It's Craven time. Let there be Craven. Aaron Taylor Johnson, kicking ass as Hunter Jamie. Bet you didn't see that coming. And this really circles me back to the writing here. Not 30 seconds go by in this script where I don't hear some jackass say the name Spike or Spiky or S-Town, or S-Money. No, maybe not the last two, but Spike is said to such an obnoxious degree, it makes it even more ironic that I actually had to look up the kid's name when doing this review. Just a second ago, I brought up IMDb, couldn't find him. It should be burrowed into my psyche. They say it so fucking much. Spike! Look out, Spike! Spike! Come on! You must be Spike, the little rascal I've been hearing about. Classic Spike. This tastes weird. Who spiked this? Spike? Did you spike this, Spike? Hey, we gotta get those chains out front in case cars come down here. You know, the ones with the spikes on them? Spike, did you get the spiked chains out there after you spiked my punch, Spike? All right, I think I ran that into the ground. Let's keep going. Ralph Fiennes is also in this. He plays a doctor. He's gonna show up later in the film, but he'll get his time to shine. They all do. But the script is really going to focus in on Spike, his relationship with his mother and father, and he gets to have a road trip adventure with each of them individually. That's nice. First half focusing on his relationship with his dad, second half with the mom. It's also worth note that this is not supposed to be the last 28 film we get. This is part of a trilogy, a new trilogy. So it's the end of one, the beginning of another. It acts as a bridge, kind of like the bridge that's in this film. Oh, segue. Subscribe for segues. And actually, that reminds me, you should subscribe to Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I'm on all the places. Would love to have you with me. Hey, so what in the hell is this film all about anyways? Great question, Adam. Glad you asked it. Well, the safe haven we start out at is known as the Holy Island. It's a small little island, and then there's a causeway that takes them to the mainland. And this overall narrative taking place once again in lovely England. And at just 14 years old, he thinks, yep, now's the time. My son Spike is ready to take on the day. We're gonna go out on a hunt. A rite of passage. Meanwhile, poor Jodie Comer's character, Isla, is stuck up in bed. This chick's got something wrong with her. We don't know until later in the film what that is, but it's quite an enticing mystery until it's not. So without drumming up any spoilers, what can you expect from this film before I get into them? Well, you'll have a consistent pace, I would say, to the previous movies. These aren't like high-octane, fast-moving pictures. There's a lot of slow down time. There's a lot of one-on-one dialogue. There are some really intense moments in this film that are almost always undercut by some bullshit editing trick that they're doing with the camera and with the multi-angles they're doing. Back in the 90s, some of the lamer films did this triple take where it would be like, you would see them a lot in cereal commercials. Well, apparently the modern version of that is to do a double take from the opposite angle. So if an infected gets a arrow through the head, it's gonna freeze frame and then spin over here for the same shot reversed. It turns out Danny Boyle likes playing Mario Kart in mirror mode because we see this shot every freaking time. It got so obnoxious by the 6th or 7th one, I just kind of assumed they would happen every time. And as luck wouldn't have it, they pretty much do. The editing in general in this movie is shot out of a fucking cannon though. It can't sit still. It's constantly switching shots. It's constantly referencing other things from the history of England and shit I don't know anything about that probably means something to someone somewhere, but it doesn't make the movie any better. Now, that being said, the movie tries to have some heart, to have a soul, to have an identity, and I think ultimately it misses because of the weirdness surrounding all of it, which I'll get to. Don't worry, I'll get there. It may work for you. It did not work for me because, again, there was just too much baggage leading into the story. And it takes a good amount of time to even get to the story at all. We spend the first half just going on a hunting expedition for no real reason at all. Here's the thing. If you like the movie, great. You saw it, you loved it, you're big on this franchise. I really enjoyed the first film. I thought it was ahead of the game. It did some really interesting things. Second one, it's fine. This movie's just such a disappointment. And honestly, I kind of hated it. Even the opening sequence where we're back in time and we get that one crazy moment that starts things out, I found myself chuckling at it. And it has something to do with the way it's shot. It has something to do with the facial expressions these creatures are making. They looked dumb. It looked silly. I found it almost like a parody at the beginning. And I'm pretty sure those weren't the emotions that were supposed to be elicited from me. As for the production, outside of the jarring editing, we also have a movie that's shot, I believe, on souped up iPhone 15s. And it actually almost seems disingenuous to say souped up, more like souped down, because they had to really de-quality this movie. I don't think that's a word, but I'm using it. So many of the shots are intentionally out of focus, I was starting to get frustrated because we had some wonderful looking vistas on display, but it was always 10 to 20% out of focus as like a fuck you to the audience. We're trying to match the gritty, raw look of the past movies, but why? You don't need to. It doesn't even really make sense because now we're living in a 4K world. And it's even established in this setting that the rest of the world outside of whatever's happening in this area, they're doing fine. They're doing just fine. They got internet. Amazon's delivering packages. They just left these people for dead. One area I mostly enjoyed was the score. When it was just kind of its ominous background music and then just hits into the Hans Zimmer-esque types of sounds. That was sweet. Those were really powerful, really draws you in. Finally, we have the sound design. Every animal in this movie has the weight of an elephant. There were rats at one point that scamper out of a hole and it's like a stampede's in the gorge. And Simba's down there. There were crows at one point that sounded like screeching banshees before we even saw them and just heard the noise, which sounded like I turned to my buddy Michael and I said, those are probably crows or something ridiculous. And they were crows. The crow turned to me slowly and went, "Bing! You got me. See you in 28 decades later, jackass." All right, let's get down to brass tacks. I wouldn't waste your money seeing this if you're not really a huge fan of this franchise to begin with. If this is your first watch of the 28 days, I would go back and watch the first one and save yourself some coin. If you love the movies, then you're gonna go see it regardless of what I say. Who cares? I guess let this just be a warning that it might not live up to the expectations you have going in. Or maybe you'll like the subverting of expectations. You will enjoy the strange routes they go with the plot, but I did not. All right, so the film opens how most of my fever dreams do, with the Teletubbies playing on a TV set. There's a bunch of kids in the room. They're watching the weird-ass Teletubbies. When suddenly, ding dong, ding dong, an infected is ringing the doorbell, ready to come inside. This thing smashes through the door, starts eating a bunch of kids. Other ones are showing up. And I honestly got a little bit of a chuckle. I was restrained. I wasn't rude or anything. It was kind of just a like that. Because the first shot of one of the infected comes at the door and he's like, He just has this dumbass face and they framed it so hilariously dumb. And then right away after that, there's another lady that runs at a glass door. She's like, it was kind of thinking that was funny, and then a third lady's on the ground, like spazzing out. This is not a normal reaction from me. I do not watch The Walking Dead or Dawn of the Dead or any sort of zombie film or an infection type movie and immaturely laugh to myself because it's silly nonsense. I really enjoy getting lost in the movie, in the storytelling, in the production, and all that stuff. But that was the honest to God's reaction I had upon seeing some of this stuff. And that stayed that way through almost the entirety of the film. There were parts that were intense for sure. My favorite easily being when this alpha dude sicks some of his dogs, aka infected, on our dad and son, Spike. Remember Spike? Spike's in the movie. We love Spike. Gotta love Spike. They run to a house, and that scene is intense as shit. They run, they turn. Go, 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 go. Hold. Craven time. But we get this opening act, focusing on this young blonde kid. His dad is a priest. He's psychotic. He welcomes the invasion. They start eating him alive, and the boy hides. Presumably, we will go back to his story momentarily. We don't go back to his story. Not until the final moments of the film, which are just an absolute peach, by the way, but I'm gonna save that for the end. Fast forward 28 years into the future. We meet our new protagonist, S to the P to the I to the K to the E. That's Spike, baby. Spike is in the house. They're living on this island that's self-sustained. They got food, they got shelter, they got camaraderie with their friends. The neighbors are great. They don't really have any reason to leave. So they're gonna leave to go on a hunting expedition. Just he and his son, Spike. Remember Spike? Expedition, short for expedition, of course. I should have clarified, I apologize. They go out across this watery bridge where Craven is gonna tell his kid for the upteenth time that remember, low tide, high tide, you can only cross at certain times. This is what we in the industry call exposition. You know what? I think that's factual information that I'm gonna wanna remember for later in the movie. Later in the movie, they have to run away from an alpha and get across that watery grave. The first half of this movie for me is sadly noticeably stronger, which is weird because there's really no plot at all. It's just the father taking his son out to go hunting, a rite of passage sort of thing, wants him to be an alpha male like himself, and like that big alpha undead thing over there, or whatever, infected thing, I suppose. We can't say undead, we can't say zombie, that's not what they are. I understand. And I believe this is the first time we're introduced to several new types of these critters. The alphas are a larger version of the infected. They listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. They go to the Iron Temple 7 days a week. They're hitting the whey protein. They're roiding up. And they are in charge of some of the minions around. They can give them orders. It's basically How to Train Your Dragon at this point. Except for we don't have Hiccup. We have Spike. Dragons have spikes. Just a fun aside. Let's keep going. Jamie and his son go out for the hunt before the alpha shows up, and we see another new strain of infected, which are these bloater things, these fat, pulsating, disgusting things. They crawl on the ground, they eat worms. They're not the sharpest tools in the shed, they're not the fastest moving objects either. Spike does a piss poor job trying to kill one. A second one shows up, but they dispose of the bodies pretty quick. That's when the alpha is gonna take charge. They take off like bats out of hell, make it to a house where they hold up for a while before this thing takes down. And then we have this fugly looking sequence at night as they try to run across the causeway back to their little island. This scene truly looks like shit as they're running under the stars. They kill the alpha, they make it inside, and then they get to celebrate with some drinks, with some dancing, with some adultery. That's right, it turns out Aaron Taylor Johnson's character is a piece of shit, and he's making out with the town floozy. Actually, he's going all the way with her, while his beautiful, lovely wife is upstairs in their house, dying of something. Poor little Spikey went down the wrong alley after his father and got to see him slipping his hee-haw into her hoo-hoo, and it just kind of turned him into a man overnight all over again. First the kill, then the penetration. It's been a night. Jamie finally heads back to the house, drunk and stupid, tries to lay down next to his wife. Spike's not having anything to do with that, though. He pulls out a knife on his desk. Get the fuck out of my house, Papa. You're not welcome here. Craven double taps the wall. Puts a couple dents in the plaster, which is just rude, by the way, and then he leaves. From the movie, We really only see him one more time, and that's when he realizes his son and his wife have fled the island. He sees they're gone, and he yells to the top of his lungs. You can probably guess what he's gonna say. Spike! Spikey! And now we are in Act 2 of the picture, which is the Spike and Mom road trip. The reason he has left with her is that he found out from a wise old man, who I think is his grandpa, I can't remember, that there is a doctor in town, might be a little kooky, might be a little out there, but who's not at this point, who could potentially save his mom. So obviously he's gonna take that chance. And they head out there. Jodie Comer's been aloof, kind of crazy, looking all over the place this whole film. She's really given me Winona Ryder vibes in this movie. We finally get Ralph Fiennes in the film. He's painted himself like he's jumping into a round of Fall Guys, and he really, really respects the dead. I mean, this guy's got his own kiln, he's preserving the skulls of the fallen, and he's made himself quite a totem. This guy's one step away from going full-blown Marlon Brando Apocalypse Now, but he still has the wherewithal, righty then, to see what's wrong with our Jodie Comer. Oh shit, I'm ahead of the game here. I'm ahead of the film, and this is already running very long. Let me back up a little bit. When they get to the mainland, I forgot that they sleep in some stone archway where in the middle of the night, Spike's mom Isla chokes a bitch out, killing an infected right next to Spike, who doesn't wake up from any of this. Pretty remarkable that he doesn't wake up, but that's fine, it doesn't matter. They meet up with a Navy SEAL or whatever his profession is, I don't care. He's on the island, he could have been delivering furniture, but he chose to do this instead. The joke's on him. And he's gonna tag along with them for a little while. At least long enough for Isla to stumble into a train and help give birth to an infected baby. What? That's right, her motherly intuition kicked in full gear when she walked onto that train and saw an infected lady in the corner. And that turtle head's popping out. She goes over there, clasps her hands, and they deliver this sweet baby together. It's okay, shh. It's okay, shh. It's okay. The big twist reveal here is the baby is perfectly fine. Not infected at all, which could definitely lead us to a Last of Us situation where this baby could be the cure going forward. But we'll have to save that for the sequel. Another observation about this baby, absolutely chill as fuck. This is the calmest cucumber baby I've ever witnessed. There is screaming and violence and just loud noise that bothers a baby typically, but this kid is just collected. Good for the baby. Soldier kills the infected mom who tries to rip off Isla's face. And now Spike is not only saddled with babysitting his mother, but also his new sibling, kind of. Before they can leave the train, Daddy's home, the alpha busts out, pulls the soldier up, kills him off camera, I think. Maybe he does the spine rip again. That happens like 3 or 4 times in this movie. And then he starts chasing after these folks. This is when Ralph Fiennes finally enters the picture, shoots a blow dart at the thing, which completely stops it dead in its tracks, calms him down. It's a muscle relaxer. Everybody should be doing these once a day. And Fiend's character, Dr. Kelson, has this giant alpha right in his sights. They can kill him easily, but he decides, in his infinite wisdom, to just leave him. Oh, this deadly thing that's gonna hunt us until we give it the baby back, a la Jurassic Park 2, let's leave him alive for no reason at all, only to end up killing him 5 minutes down the road. Perfect. Perfect. Now that the action's all done, we enter melodrama territory, as the doctor has figured out what is causing all of Mom's problems. It's cancer, so that's not that exciting. She finds out she has cancer, and within an hour, has him take her out off camera, bringing back a polished skull for the son. Hey, Spikey, I have cancer. Here's your baby. I'm gonna go die without telling you. He's gonna bring back a skull, though, to add to the collection. Thanks, Mom? The fuck? But damn, Spike is emotionally and physically put together. He takes the skull and he climbs up to the top of Skull Island, plants that skull right at the tippy top, primally screams in my headcanon, but in the real movie, he just looks off to the sunset with Skull Mom. He tips his hat to the dock and makes his way back home, but then just ditches the baby at the front door like a high school teen on prom night and heads back inland, where we are gonna end this movie on the dumbest shit-ass cliffhanger ever conceived. Unless you watched the film Men, also written by Alex Garland, then you know that anything is possible here. Everything's on the table. Remember the Teletubbies I talked about at the beginning of the movie? Good, because they're back. There was also another thing I forgot to mention, which is that Spike has a Power Rangers action figure, but it's just one more piece to put into this puzzle. Because as he's cooking up a really nice catch of the day, a couple more infected zombies smell that fish and come running at him. He's now a perfect shot with the bow and arrow because he practiced for half a day, and he takes a couple out, but uh-oh, he's out of room and out of options. Good thing for him, the tracksuit Teletubby Power Rangers have entered the fray. Here comes a new challenger, and the leader of this motley crew, the blonde kid that survived from the way beginning. He's rocking a tracksuit and a tiara, because we're silly now. That's what we're doing with 28 years later. We're silly. Not only do these guys all have different tracksuits of colors matching the Teletubs and the Power Rangers, but they are also highly skilled in parkour, running up the sides of walls, using javelins at them. Woo! Yeah, baby! They are eating this up. Yum, 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 yum. And the film ends with Spike joining the crew. Are you ready for it? Boom, boom, boom. What in the hell was this? It should be noted that I get heated, I get loud, I get wild, possibly obnoxious, but that's how I do things here. I do movies. You can love this movie. It could be a 10 out of 10 for you. That's great, that's fine. I'm telling you why it's not for me. Number 21. Saw the poster for Bone Lake the other day, had a hot chick in a swimsuit covered in blood in a lake of skulls, and I thought, this movie's for me. This one's for me. I did not watch a trailer before going to the film though, so I went in fresh as a daisy. You got a title of Bone Lake, there's a hot chick on the cover, it's rated R, okay. All the pieces are in play for me to get my perv on. Give me the spice, give me the gore, give me all of it. Yum, 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 I eat it up. Is what I said going in. And then I saw the movie. It didn't give me shit. This is an R-rated film. It's 90 minutes long. It's already speaking my love language. I like a quick 90-minute horror film. Those usually work out well. Not in this case. This is gonna be spoiler-free for the first half, but I really didn't like this movie, so I will go into spoilers later and I'll let you know, okay? I'm guessing this was done on a pretty quaint budget too, seeing as there's like 4 people in the whole movie, and they're gonna be spending an extended weekend together at this beautiful Airbnb secluded in the middle of the woods on this gorgeous Bone Lake. 2 sets of couples coming together to stay at this place. What's the worst that could happen? You know, besides the fact that they don't know each other and the Airbnb double booked. I feel like this just happened in Barbarian, but whatever, that is the focus of this film. Our protagonists here are Sage and Diago. They have a healthy relationship. They've been together for a long time. I mean, it's healthy-ish. There was a little slip up from Sage with her ex-boyfriend. It was a one-time thing, not a big deal. They've turned the corner, and they're here to spend a lovely weekend together before Diago pops the big question, asking Sage to be his bride. He was not counting on Will and Sin entering the arena, though. These 2 lovebirds show up like they came out of an Instagram photo shoot, and they seem like perfectly pleasant people. So the 4 of them decide, in their infinite wisdom, to share the place, because the nearest hotel is a full 50 minutes away. Gross, that's so far, that's almost an hour. You couldn't pay me to be in the car with Sage for an hour. No, she's great. Actually, Sage isn't great either. She's perfectly fine. She's kind of got this Florence Pugh at home vibe to her. Then you have Diago, who is a total bitch. This guy puts the man, and oh man, is this guy a wuss. As the movie progresses, you will get progressively more annoyed at Diago and the fact that he never stands up for himself throws a punch, or does anything to resemble a person. He acts as more of a plant in most scenes in the corner, which can be frustrating to watch. And I found this storyline to be something more akin to a Netflix streamer, meaning dumb. I feel like it thinks it's smarter than it is. And at first, I'm kind of on board. The first act's okay. Then we build up this cat and mouse thing that it's doing, a little bit of a psychological thriller. You have mysterious doors, you got locks, you got people that you're unsure about. They're playing each other. There's a game at hand. Okay, what else do you got? Well, it turns out the whole thing's just going to spiral into nonsense in the final act. It becomes utter schlock. It's like they ran out of budget, too, because the first 2/3 of this movie look pretty nice. There's some good vista shots. There's some pretty cinematography. That all goes out the window in the final 30 minutes, and the thing turns into Looney Tunes stupid. There's a little bit of action. The choreography's miserable. The way it's framed up, the blocking, none of it is working right. Now, as for the poster, where we see the hot chick in the lake, while that does appear at one point, it's not hot. It is a lake, but the movie's called Bone Lake. You would think there'd be some boning going on. Not much. Not much. And it is rated R for some blood very late in the game. Otherwise, there isn't shit in this film. No nudity at all. Sexual content a little bit, but it's so lame. The whole film is just a big ball of edging without the payoff. There's a major tonal shift in the third act, which didn't work at all for me. And that means this movie doesn't work at all for me either. It was a pretty bad watch. It had me on the hook for a while until it lost me, and I almost got up and just walked out because I did not care what happened to anyone by the end. Okay, that's all I'm going to say in the spoiler-free section. Now, if you want to stay with me, I'm going to ruin this movie, but spoiler, you don't really need to waste your time watching it. So let's get into it. The plot revolves around Diego and Sage's characters. Diego decided he was going to take the year off from work to write a great book, which means Sage is the sole income provider right now. I'm sorry, do you need to not work in order to write a book? You can't do both? Whatever, setting that aside, he's apparently not a great writer either, and that's going to get thrown in his face several times before the end of the movie when he's like, hey, you're right, Sage, I do kind of suck at writing. I'm going to go back to teaching. You're the more talented one. Like, come on! Anyway, they go to this Airbnb, and the big reason for it is simple. Diego wants to propose to her during that final sunset on the beach. Well, this gets ruined when Will and Sin show up. These lovebirds do not want to leave. They are about to play rock, paper, scissors to see who gets to stay, but that gets cut off by Sin. We're all adults here. We all seem like we're normal people that aren't going to murder each other in our sleep. Why don't we try this out together? It's a big place. So they agree, and they all stay together, and it starts out pretty positively. There's nothing weird going on. They're drinking, they're getting loose, they're playing some games, they're having some fun. And then they get to the first challenge, which is these 3 doors, these ominous doors in the corner of the house, and Will wants to crack them open and see what's inside. Good thing he has a mallet that he can just knock on the side of the lock a few times, open that bad boy up, and see what's in. The first room is giving 50 Shades of Grey. There's a sex bed, there's a bunch of dildos lined up on the wall, and I'm like, all right, now we're finally getting somewhere. And then they close the door and never go back. So then I was like, okay, well, I don't need to be here any longer. The next door they go into is far more creepy. There is a Ouija board on the ground surrounded by candles, and there's newspaper clippings all over the walls about all these people that went missing at Bone Lake. Supposedly, the lake was named this because of all the bodies and all the bones littering the floor of this lake. This is enough to creep Diego and Sage out. They leave the room. They're like, we don't even want to see what's behind the third door. But I already knew what was behind the third door at this point. That was the reveal that these 2 lovebirds are not who they claim they are, and they're actually the bad guys. That's right, Will and Sin, it turns out, are not good people. Which the movie's definitely going to let you know pretty early on, when Sin is trying to get Diego to lust over her, putting him in precarious situations. The classic, oh, I lost my contacts. Can you help me find them in my underwear drawer? Just move those dildos out of the way that I'm never gonna use in the movie! By the way, there is a sex scene earlier between Diego and Sage, and they're on a bearskin rug. She's got like a towel or a blanket around her lower half so that we don't see her ass or like any penetration going on, short for penetration going on. But the camera does a top-down view, and I'm almost positive I saw her shorts on underneath. So bad? Just lazy. Just bad. The movie really takes a turn when Will's gonna go out on a 5 or 6 mile jog in the morning, and he happens to cross Diego, who is hiding an engagement ring for Sage. He inquires about what's going on. Diego tells him, and then Will, a day later, weaponizes it against him at brunch when he pulls out that very same ring from Grandma and proposes to Sin. And he even has the cojones to say, I was gonna do it lame and go out at sunset on the beach, but I just can't wait any longer. This naturally upsets Diego to the point where he does absolutely nothing. He goes, Will, I need to see you outside. We need to talk outside, Will. Yeah, outside. Will puts on this pathetic performance about how Sin has cheated on him in the past and he needs to lock this ass down. So he took the ring and he feels bad, but he really needs this. And Diego goes along with it. What? Now the pieces are starting to move. After Diego has both been seduced by Sin and has been hoodwinked by Will, he lets Sage and Will go solo to the store to get more groceries. What? And this is where Sin and Will are gonna separate and dominate. Command and conquer, baby. Sin tries to put the moves on old Diego once more, while Will is trying to get Sage to bang him in the car. Do they or don't they? Well, they're at odds with each other when they get home, not sure who to trust. But because their relationship is strong enough and they suspect that some foul play is going on, they are able to separate themselves from these crazy people for a second to find out what's behind door number 3. And wouldn't you know it, it turns out that Will and Sin actually own this place and they've been fucking with people for a while. It's all about the chase, baby. It's all about breaking up relationships and then dumping the bodies in the lake. Classic. And this is when the movie goes from mildly intriguing to downright terrible. As Will and Sin come in the room, you figured it out. We're crazy now. And Sin suddenly becomes all disheveled and no longer supermodel-ish. She's just nuts now. And we find out they're actually brother-sister lovers. Incest. You gotta love it. Diego and Sage attempt to leave the house, but it's no use. These two idiots are somehow giving them the slip every time. And this is where I just can't even with this movie. Sage and Diego, or Diago, I'm not actually sure what it is, to be honest with you, but they are running away together. The idiot hurts his leg. Ow, ow. And then they split up in the house. He is gone for like 10 minutes while Sage has a knife fight in the kitchen against Sin. Terribly choreographed, by the way. I'm pretty sure at one point when Sin tries to stab down on Sage, this is the classic reversing of film shot where the knife, she catches the knife like it's stabbing down on her, but in actuality how they filmed it is they had the knife down and they just reversed the footage because it looks so bad. It's like, huh! Sage is dealing with both of these jackasses for a while Diago is just, I don't know where. She's gone. Eventually, he will reappear and stab Sin in the foot as she's crossing the dock that he was for some reason hiding under. But unfortunately, Will is gonna catch up and kill Diago with the chainsaw. I'm like a chainsaw. What? A motherfucking chainsaw. What? Come and get it. Sage would like to ask him a few questions as she buries one right into the back of his skull, causing him to fall down on the chainsaw. And this is really the only bloody scene in the entire movie. They get onto the boat where Sin's like, surprise! She hops on. This whole thing is filmed like ass. They clearly ran out of budget at this point. The boat's moving around. Diago has the axe while Sage is driving. She's got a knife, keep in mind. Sin has a knife. He's got a fucking axe. And of course he sucks and can't hit her. She falls off the boat. He's able to cut off a couple fingers, and I already knew there's that stupid ring from Grandma. He's gonna put it on Sage to end the movie. I just fucking know it. but Sin falls into the water, her hair gets tangled up in the boat motor, and Sage is like, let me boat you a question. That one didn't really work, like the ax you a question, but whatever. She runs her over with the boat. The film ends with Sage Dog and D Money sitting down at the end of the boat at night, and he grabs that ring off the finger, throws it in the water, puts it on Sage, and they laugh. And that's Bone Lake. Number 20. The nostalgia era continues with another reboot slash remake slash requel slash sequel slash whatever the fuck will this is supposed to be with I Know What You Did Last Summer, the fourth installment in this franchise, starting with the first film, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Can we title these something different? Why do we have to keep using the original titles? Was I Know What You Did Last Summer the new class taken? Well, how is it, right? That's why we're here today, and I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna give you the lay of the land, what you can expect from this new entry, and whether or not it's worth your hard-earned coin to go out and see in theaters. And because I'm both a gentleman and a scholar, I'll start with the last one. No, it's not worth your money to go out and see in theaters. You can wait for streaming, which I imagine will be in a few weeks' time. If you're a massive fan of this franchise, anything I say is gonna fall on deaf ears anyways. You probably already went out and saw it day fun. In the past, I've been very lenient on these legacy sequels because they mean so little to me at the end of the day. Outside the rare exception of Top Gun Maverick, which managed to be better than the original, none of these other ones come very close. Oftentimes, they follow the same exact generic formulaic plot of the original film. They spice things up a little bit. They bring back the old dogs out of retirement for one last ride, and then subsequently 3 or 4 more rides afterwards. And I Know What You Did Last Summer does the exact same thing, but at this point, I'm over it all. And cards on the table, the original movie in this franchise isn't one of my favorites by any stretch of the imagination. It's incredibly okay to me. It's schlocky, it's got a fun murder mystery vibe to it, it's got some annoying characters that are still hot to look at on camera, so it salvages itself. This new movie follows the exact same playbook of the original, but does everything worse, as almost all legacy sequels do. So we have a new group of 20-somethings who head up around that windy, dangerous road to the tippy top so they can watch the fireworks, and they decide, in their infinite wisdom, to just park the car halfway in the road, get out, stand in the middle of the road, and watch the fireworks there. What? And then they're shocked when a truck drives by and the person inside's like, what the fuck? And crashes off and dies. Or did the driver die at all? Just like the original, we do not know. That's where the mystery comes into play. And just like the original, we have to fast forward 1 4th of July later. And here we are again with an I Know What You Did Last Summer note sent out to the gang. And then from here, it's gonna be a string of kills. They bring back the OG crew to look into things, help them figure out who the killer is, yada, yada, yada. Here's the deal. This is an R-rated film. It's a little under 2 hours long. These characters run the gamut from insufferable to, okay, I guess this person's fine. And the way they incorporate Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. is eye-rollingly bad, especially JLH. Short for Jennifer Love Hewitt. They make her say that stupid line from the first movie. What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for? She even has to do the huh. It's in the trailer. What are you waiting for, huh? What the fuck are you waiting for? She should have swore, but she doesn't. Because nothing's very edgy or gory about this new movie. If you're gonna modernize your horror for the new audience. Instead, it's just slightly more graphic than the original, slightly more blood than the original, but it doesn't surpass in any way, and it certainly doesn't hold a candle to the writing of the first, which is really saying a lot, because it's not like the first movie was Shakespeare, but the dialogue in this new one is pretty brutal at times. It felt like it's an older person trying to talk like a younger person and completely failing. Ava's one of the main characters, and I think at one point she calls her friend an egg. I don't know what the fuck that means, but that she calls him that. I went to the internet, looked up what the slang definition of egg is, and Google tells me it's a transgender person who hasn't accepted or realized their true gender. So yeah, I don't think that was the context this movie was going for. Now, I don't think a lot of people care about the rich dialogue in a movie like I Know What You Did Last Summer. They are here for the fisherman, or the fisherwoman, or the fisher they, them. And they, I think, are going to be very disappointed. The best kill is naturally in the trailer with the spear hook. It's also the most violent one. All the other kills range from, well, that was disappointing to, I'm mildly entertained right now. And that's kind of the best thing I could say about this film. It's, mildly entertaining. Outside of the sloppily handled stupid premise that make all of the protagonists look like dipshits at the beginning, the middle act is definitely the strength of the movie, where we're seeing a lot of the kills, we're seeing some fun nods to the original, but then all that shit's thrown out the window when the finale hits. Now let's get into the tone of the movie. From the trailer, it made it seem like it was gonna be a darker entry, kind of more aligned with the OG. That's not true. This one's a lot sillier, a lot poppier. Even the title card that comes up for I Know What You Did Last Summer has this like radical lightning bolt style aesthetic to it, screaming to the audience, this isn't your standard I Know What You Did Last Summer. This is something for the new generation. Or at least it's something that the writer thought that the new generation wanted. The final moments of this movie are so stupid. I don't know how anyone watches this movie and doesn't roll their eyes at the dialogue. Absolute cringe factory. Now, I also want to tell you there is a Avengers-esque post-credit scene, so make sure to stick around for that if you want to see how far your eyes roll to the back of your head. If you're looking for a movie to take your date out to, look somewhere else. Or maybe better yet, just stay home and watch the original. It is better, which is almost always the case. You don't need me to tell you that. And with the price of movie tickets as high as they are, I think it would be insulting to recommend you waste money on this dreck. It's just so utterly stale across the board. We're not getting new iconic characters from this franchise. There's no new awesome catchphrases. There's no real memorable moments here. It's just a boat lost out at sea without a working engine. Number 19. Are you sick of people hanging out outside your front door? Never given you a single second of peace? Well, I have good news for you, friend. A film has come along that gives us the answer to this problem. It's called The Woman in the Yard. It's a Blumhouse film. Regardless, I saw the film and I'm gonna give you my thoughts in what will probably be a somewhat quick review. Let's begin. You come up to me and you say, Adam, with tears in your eyes, please tell me if I should see this new Blumhouse atrocity. Have they finally learned their lesson? Have they found their way? Well, to that I say, I don't know why I'm rhyming, no. But kind of also yes. This feels like Blumhouse trying their hand at a little bit of an A24 vibe. Because The Woman in the Yard is not your basic by-the-numbers horror schlock. It has some depth to it. It's got things to say. Now, whether or not those things are said clearly is up for debate, which I'll talk about later. But on its face, this movie is not very scary. It takes a freaking long-ass time to get anywhere. It's that dreaded PG-13. So the gore and the deaths are going to be very minimal. I mean, there's only like 5 people in this entire film. One of which is a creepy-ass lady who's dressed in all black like she's attending a funeral, camped out right in the front yard. Now, for someone like myself, I would say that's nothing a quick grab of the broom can't fix. Hey, get out of here! Get out of my yard! But for Ramona and her 2 children, it's a more difficult situation. You see, this family is grieving. We have a widowed mother and 2 children now fatherless. They're living on this fixer-upper farmhouse that he thought was a great idea. Thanks, Dad. And now they're stuck here with a busted-up car, some dog from all those old newspaper comic strips, and a brand new neighbor who decided to move in right out front. Now, I did preface this by saying this movie takes a good chunk of time to get going. The movie is less than an hour and a half. And yet it feels so much longer because of the slow, plodding nature to it. And it's at no fault of the cast. Danielle Deadwyler, yes, Dead is in her last name, gives a fantastic performance as the mother. You feel for this woman as she limps her ass around the house, trying to get food for the kids, trying to turn on the damn pilot light, trying to get the electricity working, and trying to get this dumb hoe out of the front yard. This is what we would call a psychological thriller, psychological horror, if you must. This woman in the front yard is not all that she seems. Mind games are going on. She's doing things with shadows and mirrors and reflections. And pretty soon, much like Ramona, you as an audience member are not going to know what the hell is going on. And I'm not sure by the time it is over, you ever truly figure that out. And some will say that's the
brilliance of the film. The challenge with this movie is the lady in the yard has everything working correctly. The acting is spot on. Cinematography is gorgeous. This is one of the prettier looking Blumhouse movies I've seen in a very long time. The visual effects all feel real and practical. Even if that's not the case and they're using some new fandangled Hollywood trickery, it's triggering me. It's triggering me. I could have said tricking, but I went with triggering. Subscribe. There's an old adage out there where people will say, hey, you know what? This movie's not made for you. Made for that guy, that gal who will appreciate it. And that's fair. I say the same thing about my channel. Hey, you think I try too hard to make you laugh? Well, yeah, I'm trying hard to make you laugh. I want you to enjoy what you're watching. I want you to feel engaged with me. And some people just like the snooty dude that pushes the glasses up and says, I found the cinematography to be lacking in certain aspects. I thought the whole duality of man angle they were going for came off a bit macabre, which I suppose was the intention. But for me, long story short, I wouldn't recommend rushing out to see this one in the theaters, although I do recommend people supporting original stories, and so I suppose I'm at an odds with myself. I also value time and money, and the movie theaters can be very expensive, and films can get quite long when you add the trailers into things, which are now like 30 minutes long. Come on! What are we doing anymore with trailers? But that's a whole other rant I could go on. This feels like a movie you could settle down at home and watch. It's an hour and 28 minutes or something. It doesn't even hit an hour and a half, and it feels longer than that. And it's very much like most horror movies, backloaded. You're gonna get a lot of those jump out scares and shock factor moments in the last 25 minutes or so. But even then, it's not very scary because at that point, you're just kind of confused as to what the hell's even happening in this film. So the wild thing here, to summarize, is everything pretty much fires correctly. Great acting, great direction, beautiful soundtrack, beautiful visuals. It's just the story that did not hit home for me, and I thought it was kind of confusing and muddled as it got going further on.
Number 18. Apple Plus has a new movie. It's a mystery thriller. It's a love story. It's a schlocky Michael Bay action flick. It's The Gorge. Another in a long string of films that just unceremoniously releases on a streaming service and you forget about it the very next day. But I'm here to remind you, and I just watched this movie, have plenty of thoughts, so let's dive in. Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy star in this 2-hour and 7-minute PG-13 extravaganza. They play two highly skilled operatives. And when I say highly skilled, I mean it. They can do anything that's put in front of them. But if they were to put together a resume of their skill set, up at the tippy top of that piece of paper would be sniper. They are super good at shooting things from far distances. And this is a key factor for what they're about to do. This duo is going to be dropped off at an undisclosed location for 365 days. The American is going to be camped out on one side, Anya Taylor-Joy's Drasa on the other. They are to have zero contact with each other. They're basically ghosts, and they have to focus entirely on this gorge, on this giant steep hole in the ground. They get to walk the perimeter every day, check off the boxes of things that work. We got turrets, we got explosives, tripwires, it's all intact, good. They report back to their base every 30 days with the all clear. For the rest of the film, we are going to wonder as an audience, what is in the trench? Why is it so mysterious? Are we going to get a will they, won't they scenario between these two star-crossed lovers? And that's a very solid foundation to work with. Unfortunately, everything built on top of that foundation was done in an art class by a 12-year-old. Because by the time the first 45 minutes or so is over, the script has fully given up. It gave us a very interesting premise and led us into stupidity. Now, I watched this movie with my wife. She did overall enjoy the film, but would be the first to tell you it was incredibly stupid. I agree in a sense, it is entertaining, but I can't sit here and say it's a good movie. It's a watchable shit show. It would be like if you paid tickets to watch a very fancy ballet take place, but then at the intermission, they replace it with ray gun from the Olympics. Still entertaining to watch, but not for positive reasons. Sadly, an entertaining shit show for a streamer is a high benchmark now. This is one of the better streamers I have watched in some time. In fact, I would say it's pretty similar to Wolf's in the fact that you got George Clooney, you got Brad Pitt, two big players, two recognizable names. You have a plot that sustains itself for about 35 or so minutes. It's appearing to be kind of smart, but then says screw it like halfway through, goes off the rails, and you don't really care by the time it winds down. Let's get a couple of the pros out of the way before I go into spoiler territory. Miles Teller, Anya Taylor-Joy, I thought they worked very well in this film. They had good chemistry. There was a good rapport there. I believed the love story between these two. From a visual cinematic standpoint, it still has that really high res, high definition camera stank to it that you get with a lot of these streaming films. It is doing a better job, I think, with the color correcting, but it's still missing that film aspect that I love on the big screen. There's something too digital about this movie. And again, the first half is noticeably stronger than the second. I don't know what this film cost them to make, but they did not put enough into the effects in the final act, I can tell you that. It is over 2 hours. Anyone that knows me knows I'm a stickler for run times, and if a movie's too long, I will tell you it, damn it. This movie's too long. Did not need to be over 2 hours. I think an hour and a half would have been perfect for this movie. It would have been gorgeous. Gorgeous. There is a good chunk of action in this movie from about the 1 hour mark to the end of it. I can't say it's like amazing. It feels like our two leads are just in front of a green screen for most of it. But there is a decent score in this film, something that a lot of Netflix movies I feel like don't even try with. Apple Plus films I've noticed have had at least some composers attached to them, which is some effort. Overall, I would say this was a very promising movie that fizzled out well before it was done. And also I want to say, Zach Dean, the writer of this film, I have no way of knowing this or not, but I feel like this guy watched Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder version, specifically one scene where they're up on top of the mall on the roof and they're looking out at the neighbor guy across the street. They're holding up signs to communicate. They got the binoculars. They even play games where they're shooting zombies. They play chess, I believe, at one point. That's essentially this entire movie stretched out for over 2 hours. So there you have it, The Gorge. One of the better streamers we've had in a while. That's depressing. Now I want to get into the specifics. Short for specifics. We have Sigourney Weaver in this as Bartholomew. Terrible name. She's going to be the head of a secret shadow agency. She reaches out to Levi because he's one of the best of the best, highly decorated, and also has no baggage. He has no one in his life that would miss him if he goes missing. He's the perfect candidate. And this is the same for Drasa on the Russian side of things. She's not Russian, but I believe that's who she answers to. I don't know. It's all kind of like, it doesn't matter, okay? This is a shadow organization. It's not just American. It's not just European. It's a coalition that came together back in, I believe, the 40s. During and after World War II, experiments were going on all over the place. One such experiment was happening deep down in a secret laboratory. But due to unforeseen circumstances, an earthquake hit, causing all of the stuff they were working on to explode, and stuff mixed together, and it made plant people. And insect people. And people. That last one might not be true. But yeah, people were kind of morphing into the ground and into the trees and shit. They tried to stop it by sending in a small army, but they were all taken out. Swallowed up by the Gorge. And so after that, the powers that be determined in their infinite wisdom that the best way to keep a lid on this thing is to find two of the best, plant their asses down on opposite sides of the Gorge, and just let them have a picnic for a year. And I gotta tell you, it makes no sense. Especially when we find out they have all these wackadoo drones flying around, they got stealth cameras whipping in, they got machine guns on them, they got... You're telling me with all this technology, you're still gonna hire two assholes to set up some folding chairs and a sniper rifle? No, I don't think so. It's silly on its face. And the best part is after their year is up, they just shoot him in the head. We know this because the guy that was there previous, Miles Teller, was all like, hey, can't wait for you to try out the Gorge. It's a hell of a time. Bye. I can't wait to live the rest of my life out. Oh, there's my ride. Now, even though the two towers shan't talk to each other, it's too palpable of an idea to pass up because they see that each other are hot. Through the binoculars that always do this like kind of cheesy zoom in, zoom out thing, and they know they have to have a piece. It's lonely up there for months at a time. So Levi and Drasa pull out the cue cards. They got a couple whiteboards. They start drawing things to each other. This is a penis. They play chess. They play the drums. Wait a second. Wait a second. Anya Taylor-Joy playing chess? Miles Teller playing the drums? Is this a Queen's Gambit Whiplash reference? Yeah! Coincidentally, both those things are much better than this. If you haven't seen Queen's Gambit, it was a mini-series on Netflix. Highly recommend. I freaking loved that. If you haven't seen Whiplash, highly recommend. I freaking love that. Let's talk about this shit. After several months of this back and forth, will they, won't they, Sam and Diane relationship, Levi decides enough is a freaking enough. And so he rummages around the place, and thankfully there was like 1,000,000 miles of cable for him to use, hook into a fucking rocket launcher, pop that baby on the shoulder, and that cable gets taut. He hooks himself to it. And before you know it, the guy's over there for dinner, flowers in hand. He's good. He's good. And this stuff's all solid. It's a nice little love story. We don't get a lot of them anymore, especially in this kind of a twisted genre thing they're doing. But all that's about to change when he tries to head back to his tower for check-in. Now, keep in mind, they've had one big occurrence with the mystery meat down below, which is these creatures. One night, Drasa was playing her music way obnoxiously loud. And I can't blame these dudes for trying to run up the walls and shut that shit up. Because it's like, they're trying to sleep, the neighbors are being loud, what are you gonna do? Right? I mean, I don't blame them. So they're scaling the walls. They're getting blown up. These guys pull out their like freaking giant machine gun turrets. It's absolute bedlam. But fast forwarding back to where we were. He goes across the cable again. But he does not make it all the way over before that cable snaps. And he goes flying down to his presumed death. But nope, he has a parachute. He's fine. He lands in a tree, and Anya Taylor-Joy is gonna go save him. She base jumps off the top, flies down, and this is where the movie turns Looney Tunes. They of course find each other and meet up. They have no tracking devices or any way to know their real bearings anymore, but they're gonna have no problem finding anything, even though we're told several times it's pitch black down there. They head into a facility where they get the generator working and the lights on, and then in perfect movie trope fashion, there is a projector conveniently set up with the distress call from the scientist. They just have to turn that thing on, and we get the biggest exposition dump ever. Hello, if you're reading this, things have gone terribly wrong. If you're down here, it takes about 5 days for the infection to kick in, but otherwise you'll be okay and there'll be no infection at all. It's just so stupid. And then she talks about this security thing that can blow the whole gorge up, and it's just so much shit thrown at you at once. But they and us, the audience, got exactly what we needed to hear. They got to get out of this gorge now. Time is of the essence. But before that can happen, they have to kill a lot of these tree people. How are they possibly going to get out of this? They are miles and miles below the Earth's surface. There's just zero chance they're going to ever figure, oh, there's a Jeep over there. The editing in this movie is kind of clever. It gives you zero opportunity to think about anything because it's going so rapid fire. Oh, there's a Jeep over there from what? Like the 60s, the 70s? Oh, they already got it working. I guess I don't have time to think about the fact that the gas would be all dried up or the battery would be completely shot or no, it's working and they're able to. This is my favorite scene of the movie. They find the cable that's dangling. They got back to the exact location where they were before. They find the fractured cable dangling all the way down the mountain. They hook it to the winch on the Jeep, and this thing is gonna go straight up this mountain with these two on it as they're battling a whole bunch of tree people. It is a straight up video game. It felt like I was playing Uncharted and The Last of Us smashed together. Unfortunately, I wasn't playing it because that would have been fun. Instead, I was just watching it play out. And that's not as exciting. Some of the action here is cool though, because there's creatures jumping on this thing. Teller's pulling out the pistol. Anya's got the freaking sniper rifle. Switches it to rapid fire. They will make it out of the gorge, but this is only half of their problem. Sigourney Weaver's character, Bartholomew, is furious that he betrayed her trust. He told her he had no contact with the other side, but she's been spying on him the whole time. She has camera footage of them together, and they're gonna land there, and they're gonna be upset. And then they're going to activate some drones with freaking machine guns on them to track these two down and kill them. Probably could have done that back at the ranch. Probably didn't need to fly all the way out this way. But if they didn't, how else would we wrap this up? Keep in mind, the shadow organization that she works for definitely has more people involved than her, but the movie doesn't care. It's like, we'll kill her off and they're good. They're free to go. No one else apparently knows about any of this, even though I don't believe she hired Anya Taylor-Joy's character. I guess the assumption is they're all dead at the end, so no one's gonna try to track them down or look for them or hope that they use their credit card at any major retailer ever again. So after another explosive action scene where drones are going after Teller and Anya, things are blowing up like crazy, this also triggers the event down in the Gorge, which activates a fucking nuclear bomb. They drop this giant atomic bomb into the ground and just the whole thing blows to hell, including killing off our evil villain, Bartholomew. Get out of here. We don't have to go up. We got to go further out. Get out of here, you idiots. You're going to kill us. The propeller blade has to fly every time. Drassa fears the worst. Levi's nowhere to be found. She did tell him, though, in a conversation, that she would go to a place in France. She knows of a place. That's where she'll be. She doesn't specify any further than that, as far as I remember. Although, maybe she did, and I was like nodding off. I don't remember her saying where she was going to go in France. But he is able to track her down in a beautiful kiss from a rose ending. She's a waitress now. She hung up the guns, hung up the base jumping pack, and she picked up a tray with some drinks. And that's where Levi's going to find her. And they're going to live happily ever after until they mutate. No, that doesn't happen. They're perfectly fine. Zero side effects at all. Number 17. When it comes to PlayStation first-party exclusive, Sony knocks it out of the park. When it comes to Sony movies, however, that's a different story. I don't think I need to remind you of Madam Web or Let There Be Craven the Hunter that just came out not that long ago. But that's not going to stop our boys Sony from taking everything they didn't learn from these movies and applying it to their video games by adapting them as movies. A few years back, we had that terrible Ratchet and Clank animated film that was essentially just video game cutscenes extended out. We had that Frankenstein Uncharted movie that combined several different games into one with a terribly miscast Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. And here we are again with a brand new adaptation of Until Dawn, a scary choose-your-own adventure which heavily leans into the butterfly effect. The choices you make early on can have ripple effects later in the game. It's a smart idea. It was a very fun concept. Sure can't wait to see how the geniuses over at Sony Entertainment utilize this one. They don't! Let's talk about Until Dawn. No, I was right the first time. A few factoids to start. I call them Adam Fun Facts here. This is an R-rated movie. IMDb clocks it at 1 hour and 43 minutes. It's got a good pace. It moves quick. And it has virtually nothing to do with the video game outside of the title. And I guess you could say that's actually refreshing to not copy the game, but do your own story with different characters in a different setting, kind of. I say that with the assumption they had a story that made any sense at all and was interesting in the slightest. But really what we have here is a poor version of Cabin in the Woods, a movie that's far better and that you should watch and actually has a solid ending that elevates the entire thing. This doesn't have that. It also doesn't even have the setting. And since I have played the video game, I'm going to take this review from two different angles. One, how does it stack up to the game? And two, how does it stack up as just a movie? Because you shouldn't have a prerequisite going into a film to enjoy it and understand what's happening. And good news on that front, you're actually better off not knowing the game, because this movie pales in comparison to that. The Until Dawn video game follows a bunch of unlikable teenage brats who are put in a very bad situation when they go up to a cabin in the woods and they start getting picked off one by one. The fun concept behind the game, as I alluded to in the intro, is the butterfly effect and getting into the psyche of each of these characters. The problem for the player is once they make one too many wrong choices, that's game over for that character, and you continue on the story with the rest of them. The movie decides, no, Instead, we're gonna go Groundhog's Day. Instead, we're gonna go Happy Death Day. We're gonna repeat the same night, but with a twist. The people die, they come back, and the scenario changes. One day it might be a crazy clown. The next, it's a giant ominous figure in the distance. They don't know what they're gonna get. Obviously, this premise gives the writers full reign to have a lot of fun with creative kills and different types of characters, really playing with the genre, which to that extent is what the game did as well. The difference is the game is very aware of this. It's in on its own joke, just like Cabin in the Woods. The movie just feels kind of poorly written. By the time the end credits rolled, I had no idea what the point of any of this even was. What were the motives? What was the plan? How does any of this even work, and why? Now, if you already know going into Until Dawn, this is gonna be a dumb movie, but you're just there for the kills and the scares, it's pretty kind of by the numbers stuff for horror fans. If you're like a teenager or don't go to movies a lot, then sure, you'll get, I took my kids to it. My teens went to this movie with me. They both enjoyed it. My son gave it an 8. I'm sure my daughter would say something like that as well. I'm a lot lower. I think this is not great. I didn't find myself too captivated by any of it. The characters are all incredibly stock. There is one character that has something kind of interesting going on, but then it goes nowhere at all. Actress Ella Rubin plays Clover. She's the main protagonist here. Clover, that's an interesting name. What does that mean? What's the point of that? 4-leaf clover, lucky, is there something there? I don't fucking know. The name is said so much. It's one of those movies where the script says the character name ad nauseum. Clover, are you in here? Clover, cloves. 4-leaf, Clover, are you around? Clover, Clover, look out. Clover, 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 Clover. Clover. She and her NPC friends go up to a cabin 1 year after the disappearance of her sister. I think her sister's name is Melanie. I'm not too sure. Sarcasm. I know her name is Melanie because Clover says it every 5 fucking minutes. Melanie? Is that you, Melanie? Melanie? It's like a dude with a chainsaw. Melanie? Is that you? I don't think there's a chainsaw in the movie. You know what else there isn't? A werewolf. The only reason I say that is because it felt like at one point maybe there was. The movie teases a werewolf 2 different times. There's a picture on the table of a werewolf. And then a couple shots later, we have a big ass full moon. So I'm like, oh, cool, a werewolf's gonna come. No werewolf comes. Maybe I lost my mind and none of that happened and I'm just like making things up. But I'm pretty sure that's how it played out in the theater. You can let me know in the comments if you thought a werewolf was gonna come. If a werewolf's gonna come. Now I'm thinking about something completely different. That feels good. Subscribe. Okay, so we have a cabin in the woods scenario. Our teens get up there and very quickly shit goes south. Creatures are showing up, clowns are coming by, you know, people are dying left and right. And there's a big hourglass on the wall. And the idea, as far as they can tell, is once the sands of time, Prince of Persia is out of existence, it's dawn. And so they figure out in their infinite wisdom that if they can just survive until dawn, maybe they won't Groundhog's Day keep looping. Okay, it sounds like we could do some fun stuff with this, but then we never do any fun stuff with this. These guys are idiots. They never come up with any plans. They never think things through at all. It's just redoing the same nights with different scenarios playing out. The only things that were enjoyable for me were the kills, but even they kind of paled for the most part. A lot of just lame pulling people into dark shadows and then screams. But occasionally, we get some fun stuff. Most of it's done through montage. The fun stuff you see in the trailers where like the worms coming through the cheek and like the shadow dude running up on them. That's what it is. That's basically the entire scene because it's a montage. Now, I did say it's rated R, and that's for some swearing, which kind of abruptly comes out of nowhere. For the first 20 or so minutes, I thought this was a PG-13 film. There's no real swearing, nothing seems like it's gonna be very edgy or bloody or gory, and then suddenly a switch is flipped, and the actors start dropping F-bombs left and right for just a little bit. This is a movie that feels like it went through some changes along the way. I don't know. It just, that's how it came off to me. There's not a vision that seemed like it made it all the way to the ending. At least that's what I hope happened. Otherwise, the writer just didn't even try to make sense of anything going on. Just wanted to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and then not really care if it sticks. It's your standard modern horror, so no nudity, light swearing, some decent gore here and there, nothing too crazy. I will say there's a lot of practical work going on. All the makeup and everything does look very nice. Visually speaking, it does the job. It's not wowing you by any means, but it's a serviceable, competently made movie. The director really went all in, though, on people crawling and getting pulled away. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say there are probably a dozen times in this movie where someone is crawling on the ground or getting dragged away. It's absolutely out of control. Our poor Clover is getting dragged around like it's nobody's business. I just kept thinking, Clover, Clover, no, Clover! As far as the characters, they didn't really try at all to make them anything. I didn't find any of them unlikable or annoying, but I also just didn't really find any of them to be anything. They just were all kind of stock characters that were existing in this world. The one chick had the dumbass bull ring. I'm never gonna be on board with the bull ring. I don't get the appeal. I don't understand it. Oftentimes when I see women with them, it looks like there's snot in their nose. End of the day, to each their own. That was the one notable standout performance in the film, was the bull ring. I'm sure there was music in the film. I don't remember it. Like, it's there doing its thing, I guess, but not jumping out there either. There's no theme song or score that was really wowing me. Overall, this movie's harmless. I would not rush out and waste money to see it in the theaters. I mean, of course I did, but I'm telling you, there's a lot better out there. Go watch Sinners again. That's way more interesting than this schlock. This is fast food horror films. This is Blumhouse level of horror. So you could probably just wait till it hits streaming, watch it on a Sunday night, and go, it passed the time until dawn. Or better yet, you could just play the video game and experience something far more creative and interesting with a much better story. Number 16. Hey, I'm on a nice little lake walk and talk. It's not the ocean, like in the film I just saw, Dangerous Animals, with the star of Suicide Squad, Jai Courtney, as Captain Boomerang, everybody's favorite character from Suicide Squad. Anyway, I thought I might as well talk about Dangerous Animals since I'm here, I'm with you. So if you have a little time, why don't you join me for a quick dip into the review? We'll sink our teeth in it together. Shark puns. Say, before I review this movie, that's Poison Ivy. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, Adam Does Movies, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. That way you don't miss an episode. That way I can go to sleep at night knowing I did my part by telling you about me. All right, let's begin. Dangerous Animals is a Shudder film. It's rated R. It's less than 2 hours. Again, Jai Courtney is the main character here. He's a villain. And this guy's a bit of a character. He takes unsuspecting people, usually teens, drifters, loners, and he feeds them to the sharks. I know I don't have to worry about the sharks out here in Minnesota, but these birds are awfully aggressive sounding. Calm down. From the trailer, I thought we were gonna get a bunch of carnage. I thought we were gonna get some great kills, a bunch of teens put in precarious situations. Nah, it's not really any of that. Just a few individuals get selected for this little misadventure. And unfortunately, this movie spends a lot of time with a character named Zephyr. She's a free-spirited, takes no nonsense, strong female lead. And for a shark film, quite frankly, it's about time. Oh, there's people coming, and keep in mind I'm a grown-ass man in public doing this, so awkward. Hello, ma'am. It's a cute dog. There's no one there. Or is there? There's not. Or? The Zephster is an unlikable little thing, and that's a problem because we're going to be spending time with her, rooting for her as she falls victim, as she falls captive to our evil Jai Courtney. She does have a love interest in the film. His name is Moses. He spends one night with her and he is completely head over heels. He even makes her pancakes. But she pulls a 90s Jean-Claude Van Damme on his ass. She hits it and quits it before the eggs are even off of the pan. Peekaboo. There's a teen over there who took my spot. I had this camped out. I was gonna film down at this gazebo overlooking the lake. I had some nice picturesque views ahead of time, and then he comes rolling up on his bike. What am I supposed to do? Put him on a ship, drive him out into the lake, and feed him to the sharks? Well, there are no sharks here. I came from Shark Haven. I came from South Carolina, but no sharks here. But the nice thing is I got to see them on the big screen in Dangerous Animals. And I will tell you, negatives aside, because this movie is slow moving, it's kind of dull, the kills are not exciting, there's not near enough shark action. Jai Courtney's fun, he's having a good time for sure. He's incredibly over the top, he's dancing, he's looking like a dipshit. But it does look pretty. This is easily the prettiest looking Shudder movie I've ever seen. And I know Shudder is not synonymous for quality films, but they got some nice cameras on this one. Ocean shots are beautiful. Color grading is top notch for me. Just everything about it was really vibrant and interesting to look at. Unfortunately, that's kind of where the praises stop. Now, I did go with a fan of the channel, Michael. I met him here yesterday. He messaged me on Instagram. He said, "Sir," he came to me with tears in his eyes, as they often do. "Sir, I would love to go to a movie with you." I said, "Yes, fine, stop groveling. You can come to the movie with me and my son. We'll have a nice time." And you know what we did? Even though the movie was not great, we were having a fun time watching and kind of laughing at some of the stupid decisions characters make and just the implausibility of any of it. But that is far from a recommendation. In fact, this is a movie you can easily skip in the theaters, watch when it comes onto, I guess, the Shudder app or whatever it is. I think the teenager left, although he could be hiding around any corner. They're kind of wily like that. This was the gazebo I was talking about. Look at this nice little view of the swampy looking lake, but you know, it's what I have to work with here. Now there's some old people staring at me. Who's that youngster with the technology and his phone? I call myself a youngster because they're like 90 and I'm not that old. Well, relatively speaking. I'm already leaving the gazebo, and I think I'm leaving this review behind. Dangerous Animals has a score that they use ad nauseum. This thing is every 5 minutes. Whenever Jai Courtney opens a door, whenever he eats some eggs, it just never quits. It never lets up. Did I mention that Z, I'm calling her Z because I forgot her name, Zedster, the Z-Meister, she's terrible. I don't like her. She's unlikable. You know, she has her wits about her, I suppose. Although there's a scene, like there is in all these dumb movies, where she could easily get away, but instead she has to go for the belt of the guy on the ground. And I don't even know why in this instance she's doing it. These birds are out of control. What do you want from me? I'm really unhinged out here in public. I should probably calm down. Ma'am? There's no one there. Or is there? Long story short, not a great film. Could do worse, but again, I would not waste my time with this one. The shark attacks just were not enough. And while the effects were cool and it looks mostly practical, I was still just let down by, like, I want shark action. I want death. I want chaos unfolding, and we really just got not much of it. There was a premise here that could have worked. A Dexter-esque type of villain who kidnaps people for his own sick sexual amusement, and then he collects a piece of hair as he uses as a token that he turns into a lure, because, you know, we're doing fish stuff all the time. This whole movie is very much into the sharks. This guy went all in on sharks. Everything he talks about is related to the ocean. He's constantly admiring these beasts. It's just a bit much. The guy's very one-dimensional. He woke up one day and said, "You know what? I'm a shark guy. I'm like really into sharks are my thing." And typically sharks are my thing too, but not in this instance. I'll stick to Deep Blue Sea. I'll stick to Jaws. I'll stick to The Shallows even, with everybody's favorite actress Blake Lively these days. They're better movies. They're better movies. You know, the trailers kind of hooked me. Unfortunately, the final product did not. While some people might find Jai Courtney's evil fisherman character to have some bite, I thought he could sharpen those teeth a little bit more. Oh my God. I know I'm not talking about high art here, okay? This isn't a deep film. It's pretty shallow, as a matter of fact. Water puns. Subscribe. Oh my God, I have to tell you about one thing that was really funny. I guess it's kind of a little incy, teeny, weeny spoiler, but who cares? It's a stupid movie. He films the kills, the shark deaths, with his little VHS shitty camcorder from like 1985. And at one point, Z-Money takes the camera and throws it over, and Jai Courtney's reaction is so freaking funny. All three of us who watched laughed at the same time. He looks out in the water, he goes, "Oh." That's the sound he makes. Oh. I feel like he's so defeated and pathetic. I just thought that was really funny and worth sharing. All right, I hear more people around me right now. I don't like that. I'm online only. I'm not comfortable in public. I need to get out of here. Number 15, fans of horror. Sounds a lot like fans of horror. I'm a fan of both. Have been eating really well this year. We've had some originals like Weapons knocking it out of the park. Then we've had your tried and true legacy requel garbage like I Know What You Did Last Summer. And now we have a brand new sports horror film called Him. Directed, of course, by Jordan Peele. Wait for it. Wait for the outrage. No, it's not actually directed by Jordan Peele. He only produced it. You might be confused, though, because his name has been splashed all over the place, kind of making it seem like this is one of his movies. And so I went in the back of my mind thinking, I hope he has a lot of influence on this in terms of the storytelling, the visuals, and, so on and so forth that make a movie great. And while the actual director, Justin Tipping, who also wrote this with 2 other people, definitely got inspiration from Peele, this movie, this ain't him. I'm going to talk about this film in a spoiler-free review right now. Let's get to it. If you saw the trailer for Him and thought to yourself, wow, this looks intense, unhinged, absolutely bonkers, wild stuff, you're not entirely off, but a lot of that starts to lose steam the more it piles on, because when nothing's really grounded in any sort of reality, everything starts to disassociate. And here's what I mean by that. Tyreek Withers plays Cameron Cade. He is the favorite QB to become the next greatest player of all time, or as they say over and over and over and over and over and over again, GOAT. He's gonna be the GOAT. And when they're not saying he's gonna be the next GOAT, they simply refer to him as him. The chosen one, the main player, any other term you want to use that speaks to one person individually as a god amongst mortals. But in order to truly prove himself, he has to attend a weeks-long boot camp with the current MVP, the greatest player of all time, Marlon Wayans as Isaiah White. To say Isaiah is unconventional would be an understatement. He's held up with a bunch of Joe Rogan bros at this isolated compound. No phones, no connection to the outside world, just football. And that is where a large bulk of this hour-and-a-half movie is going to take place. Tyreek Withers wants to make his late dad proud of the man he's become. He really does want to rise to stardom and be the greatest. And so he's willing to go through this boot camp, push himself beyond what is normally humanly possible for one individual, and hopefully have that crown placed atop his head by the time this movie winds down. This is a very simple premise. The script thankfully knows that, keeping this at a tight 90 minutes. It's rated R for a splash of nudity, a good amount of intense dialogue, and some pretty graphic moments late in the game. Nothing that's like, oh my god, I've never seen this before kind of shock stuff, but definitely enough to earn an R rating. While there are some supporting characters that come and go, an influencer wife, an agent played by Tim Heidecker, very random. I love Tim Heidecker, but it's odd seeing him in things that aren't straight up awkward comedies. But the script is really going to put focus on the 2 main leads here and their budding friendship, possible fallout, possible recovery, fallout again. It's very Sam and Diane shit. Tyreek Withers puts in a very good performance here. Marlon Wayans, however, is in a different league. He's incredibly over the top, very fun to watch, total loose cannon mentality going on, and for me, he was the one that kept the movie interesting. Unfortunately, as I stated earlier, because so much of it becomes Looney Tunes the further the movie goes on, it starts to feel like you're not really watching anything with a lot of substance. Because ironically, everything feels like a message on top of a message. The movie can't decide what it wants to tackle, so it just tackles everything. We have the patriarchy, we have substance abuse, we have the pressures put on young men to make it to the top. We have body image issues, and then of course we have the overall narrative of just how easy it is for people in a position of power to dominate those below and make them do things they normally wouldn't feel comfortable doing, but because of the situation they're put in, it's almost impossible to say no. While none of these themes are bad to focus on, it all just becomes very murky because of the over-reliance on the horror side of things. We gotta make this trippy and unique and different, so we're gonna throw in fever dreams at times. We're gonna throw in panic attacks that may or may not be happening on screen. It kind of reminded me of the movie Mother, which I just did not like at all. That movie's just a giant metaphor. What really separates this movie from an allegorical nightmare like Mother is how much it whacks you over the head with a hammer to explain what's happening. I quite enjoy when there's a vagueness to the story. The third act leaves no room for interpretation. It tells you everything to a painful degree. Now, as far as the production goes, this is a beautiful looking movie with some kick-ass music. I love the the score is holding up all ships. This thing fires. And when that music is purring along as a football player smashes his head into another guy and it goes into this Mortal Kombat Romeo Must Die-esque X-ray vision, oh, I'm eating it up. Nom, 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 nom. Unfortunately, that's not all the time. Unfortunately, there's just too many moments in this where guys are talking to each other like they're playing a video game. You think you're the GOAT? You think you're the greatest? I'm the greatest, bro. I'm the best. I'm freaking goated over here. Some of the individual training moments where things do feel a little bit more grounded into reality are my favorites of the film. I wish we would have had more of that and less of the, oh, there's a guy face painted and he's pounding war drums and some crazy crap is going on in the background. Focus in on things we can somewhat relate to. That way it ratchets up the intensity when something bad happens. These moments are great. You see in the trailer where the guy puts the football in that launcher and it shoots over, hitting the guy in the face. Every time Cage screws up a throw, another football goes in. They turn that thing up to 11 and they shoot him again. You can feel the pain. You hear the bones cracking. That's good shit. And the last thing I'll say, it's considered a sports horror. Don't get that twisted. This is not a scary movie at all. I think there was maybe one jump scare and not much more to that. It's really a mental game at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, I'm pretty let down by him. I didn't outright hate it. I just didn't love it. It is just sadly one of those movies that fits right in that middle spot there. I wouldn't say rush out and see this one in theaters unless you have one of those passes. Then sure, give it a shot. It's entertaining enough. Maybe worth a stream when it comes home. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer for me. I was really pumped for this film. Bit of a whimper when it was all said and done. Number 14. It's been a week, so naturally we have another film by Stephen King, now in theaters. This one's called The Monkey, and it's written and directed by the guy that did Longlegs. Oh. Now, for some of you, that's a really good thing, and for others like myself, that's scary beyond anything you're gonna see in a Stephen King film. But just because the director may have missed the mark in the past, doesn't mean he or she cannot surprise you in the future. Let's talk about The Monkey. Film stars Theo James and Tatiana Maslany. Esteemed viewers know her from Orphan Black. Others know her from the lady that was in She-Hulk. What we have here is an R-rated, hour-and-a-half horror comedy with a big emphasis on the comedy. There's a lot of humor in this film, and a lot of it really landed. This is like the polar opposite of what we had in Longlegs, and this is definitely more up my alley. We do get some gory kills, there is some decent atmosphere, although this is by no means a scary movie. There was just one or two shots that I thought had a good eerie vibe to it. And because this is based on a Stephen King novel, you do get a lot of the things he's known for doing. A small town setting, aging the characters up halfway through the story, and a third act that doesn't quite live up to the first two. Now, I thought this was a very enjoyable movie. I do think the third act suffers. Everything with Hal and Bill as kids, they're twin brothers, that stuff's all fantastic. The grown-up counterparts, not so much. Specifically, the relationship Hal has with his almost estranged son, Petey, who he only sees once a year. They don't have a good chemistry. I understand they are kind of strangers to each other, but that does not build up in a satisfying way over the course of the film. Now again, I mentioned this movie's very funny. It has a sharp script, not only with what our characters say, but also some of the insane kills that take place. The movie's got a little bit of a Final Destination feel to it, because all these deaths appear to be freak accidents, but what's really happening is an evil monkey's behind it. You see, Hal and Bill were left the shittiest gift a father can leave one, a wind-up monkey. And when you start to twist this thing, The hand goes up, spins around the drumstick, and then it starts to drum. And when that monkey's a drumming, people go a dying. And for this supernatural entity, the monkey, it might be entirely intentional. But as far as the brothers are concerned, it's just random. And I'm gonna leave this story there. If we get to the superficial stuff, I thought the lighting was great. It looked really nice day and night in this film. Soundtrack, I don't remember it honestly being that remarkable. There was a lot of loud noises. I felt the music and the sound effects were punched up about 3 times more than the people talking. Outside of that final act being a little bit of a step down, this movie does move very quickly. It is only an hour and a half. I love that for this type of movie. You get in and you get out, have a bunch of entertaining sequences, and you're not left thinking, wow, this would have been better if it was about 15 minutes shorter. No, it runs pretty silky smooth. As for the gore factor, for you horror junkies out there, it's really hard to gauge at this point because we are getting so insane with some of these films coming out. You know, we're watching people hold on to their own innards, freaking out, somehow still alive. Heads don't just get decapitated anymore. They get like the eyes ripped out, the mouth pulled back. It's a whole production. The monkey does have some over-the-top gory parts, but nothing ever gets to the point where I thought, oh, this is just gross. I can't handle this. I'm worried about the next scene that's gonna show up because it's gonna make me feel sick. No, I think it threads the needle pretty well. Because this movie's so unserious about anything happening, I never found myself too worked up thinking about the gross kill that's gonna happen next. Instead, I was actually eager and excited to see what they would come up with. All right, there you have it, my thoughts on The Monkey. Writer and director Osgood Perkins did this one. He got me. He won me over. Where Longlegs lost me almost instantly, this one pulled me back. So Osgood for you, Perkins. I appreciate it. Number 13. It's pretty wild seeing this big resurgence of creature features. We had Nosferatu recently, we have Wolfman now, Frankenstein's coming this year, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. Truly a time to be alive. And with this thick, luscious head of hair, I'm starting to feel like a Wolfman myself. But enough about me. Let's talk about Wolfman 2025 in a spoiler-free review. Leigh Whannell is back, recently taking on the Invisible Man. Here he is revisiting another horror icon, Wolfman. Part man, part wolf, all attitude. But how does this stack up to the other werewolf films we've had? Wolfman 2025 is fine. It's fine. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I had a good time watching it. There's issues for sure, and we're gonna get into some of them. But overall, it's a watchable film that may not be up your alley. We'll see if we can shift you one way or the other during this one-way conversation. We have a very simple premise. Blake, his wife Charlotte, and their daughter Ginger are finding themselves in a bit of a rut, looking to shake things up a little bit, which is perfect timing because his dad has been pronounced dead. So they can check out his old stomping grounds, a place he grew up and he has no fond memories of. They're gonna have themselves a little road trip to a isolated cabin in the woods, free from pretty much all civilization. But there are plenty of critters in these parts. You have all your staples: rabbits, deer, bear, werewolf, and just the standard things you would find in the woods. Well, Blake, Charlotte, and their daughter are gonna find themselves also in a heap of trouble. Trouble that's going to manifest in the form of an infection that Blake is going to get on his arm, causing him to turn into, you guessed it, a bad father. No, it's actually a Wolfman. He's a good father, and he reminds us, the viewer, that every 10 minutes. As he has several conversations with his daughter Ginger, reminding her over and over, I'm here to protect you. I'm here to look out for you. I'm here to keep you safe. Do you understand what I'm here for, dumbass? I'm here for you. Help me help you. The majority of the film is going to take place on one faithful night where he's going to be fighting with his ailments. And so Charlotte and Ginger are going to have to deal with a pretty bad situation. And for an hour 43-minute movie, it gets the job done as far as the story is concerned. There's plenty of things happening at all times. This movie feels quick without being action-packed. It takes its time building up, but I never had a dull moment with this film. Now, I did have major issues with it, but not enough for me to say, I didn't have a good time watching. One of the issues is the dialogue and the way people are talking, especially Julia Garner as Charlotte. First off, I really like this actress, especially in Ozark, but I just never have seen her in any movies that I enjoy. This is the first time a film is pretty solid with her in it, and she's kind of weak. And not weak in terms of her character. No, 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 no. This character is very much a strong female lead. And for a Wolfman film, it's about time. She's gonna find herself in situations and know exactly how to get out of that. We find out she's a journalist early on and apparently knows how to do a lot of things on the farm. The script doesn't bother giving us information about her background, so as she goes through this movie being able to do things that you might not think a city journalist could do, you just have to go, yeah, okay, whatever. The script needs her to do it, so I guess that's just how it is. Not really the most compelling way to build a character, but if that kind of stuff doesn't really bother you, I was able to look past it in this film. It was fine. Listen, she's married to a dude who grew up in an environment with a father who was very controlling and made sure the kid knew how to hold his own. So one could deduct that he would probably do the same for his wife and daughter, show them the ropes, some of the things they might not have been privy to in their childhoods. So you kind of have to build some of these characters' foundations up because the movie's absolutely not going to. And the script is also not going to throw you for any loops. This is very much a straightforward movie with reveals so obvious, I don't know how anyone couldn't have seen them coming within the first 5 minutes. I'll just leave that there. Here's the issue I have with Julia Garner in this movie. One, she's playing an adult woman, which, because I know her from Ozark, she's always gonna have that youthful trailer parky vibe. Can they do something to change up the hairstyle or maybe just glow up the skin a little bit? She looks the same in every movie I see her in, and so it's really hard for me to separate her characters, especially when she's also kind of playing it the same way. She's, again, kind of mousy, pouts a lot. She kind of shifts her eyes a bit, but has nothing to say. There's a scene very early on when she's having a conversation on the steps with her husband, and this honestly felt like it was playing a video game, an RPG of sorts, where you're talking to an NPC, a non-playable character, and you get little tree conversations to choose from. Your character talks in a bit of a stilted way, and then they just kind of move a little bit, shift, nod, maybe their eye twitches a little bit. They don't say anything though, or they have a stock reaction. That's how some of the dialogue and the way they interact with each other comes across. As for our werewolf in the making, Christopher Abbott, I think, is the strongest of the three. He has a likability to him, and it is a little sad watching him start to unravel as the movie goes on. That said, I think it could have been a lot stronger of an emotional break if we had more of a connection between the father and daughter, like we did in something like A Quiet Place, for instance. That felt like a family, and it was heartbreaking when something would happen to one of them. I never got that family connection between these characters, and I don't think it helped from a story standpoint that the husband and wife were kind of struggling to find happiness. Had we pulled people in with a strong, loving relationship, it would have made the transformation far more intense, because then you get to see them break down emotionally more. Unfortunately, as weak as Julie Garner was in this for me at times, the daughter, kid actors are tough. Sometimes you hit the jackpot with a Macaulay Culkin or a Haley Joel Osment. Other times you get something like this. And what's odd is the actress that plays her did a very good job early on before they get to the scary stuff. I thought she held her own very well. But it's when we get to that house in the woods that things fall flat with her. She just has no presence at all. And that sucks when you have this emotional tie that you're supposed to get between the father and the daughter. I wasn't feeling it for most of the movie. If you're a slasher fan looking for a lot of kills, looking for a lot of gore, not the movie for you. Again, we are focused on a very small group of individuals, and so there's just not a lot of killing, there's not a lot of blood and guts. You have the transformation, of course. It's just a little underwhelming, to be honest. Visually, the movie looks great when you can see it. A lot of this takes place at night. If you watch this at home streaming, you better make sure the room you're watching it in is basically pitch black. If you're watching during the day, you get some of that light coming in off the window. It's not gonna happen. You won't see shit in this movie. I was in the theater, they have the lights kind of half-ass on, which bothers the crap out of me, and there were night shots where I couldn't see a damn thing. Some of it's by design, And it works really well because we get the vantage point of both the humans and this new lycanthrope that's skulking around in the darkness. These are my favorite moments of the movie. We see from the vantage point of the wife, and there's just nothing. It's blackness. The camera slowly peeks around to the werewolf's point of view, and things come into focus. Voices are muffled, but you very much get a clear as day shot of what's going on in the room. And it can be disturbing and haunting at times when he's like right up in their grill and they don't know it. As far as the production goes, again, it looks good. It's not one of those bullshit day to night filter effects where everything has that blue stank to it, like a lot of Blumhouse movies do. This one feels like it's shot at night. They do a good job with the environment. It felt like I was outside, freezing my ass off, scared to death that a wolf man was gonna come kill me. The movie does a good job of keeping you on edge, and that's due to some amazing sound design going on. Shit, there are moments where spiders are going up the wall and it's like because his ears are doing the hearing for us. The music, on the other hand, I felt was pretty muffled through most of it. Perhaps I was just kind of invested enough where it was just accompanying me nicely, but I felt like they could have popped that up and punched it a bit more. It's also a little bit of a bummer that most of this movie takes place in one night because the intro to the film, which is a day sequence, is probably my favorite part of the movie. A lot of tension, you can see what's going on. There's great atmosphere throughout it. I wanted some more of that. But yeah, overall, this was a very easy, pleasant watch. However, I can see why people would be down on this movie and give it a negative review all the same. There is definitely problems. It's far from perfect, but I mean, listen, I just watched a shitty Peter Pan nightmare movie the other day, so this was just a massive step up. Maybe that helped going in. Number 12. Get those TikTok accounts fired up because Megan 2.0 is here. And you know what that means? More memes! Or does it mean that? Because even though the first film became a viral sensation and it would have been really easy for the creative team, the director or the writer who came back, to double down on that, they instead go a completely different direction and take their popular horror film with a sprinkle of comedy and completely change the game, making it instead an action comedy. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them. And I genuinely am interested to see if it does pay off for Blumhouse, who produce this film again, because Megan 2.0 is a very different beast this time around. I watched it, and I'm gonna give you my review. Megan 2.0 is, for some inexplicable reason, 2 hours long, a full 2 hours long, and you feel it, friends. Not helping matters is this movie's once again PG-13. I don't know why. The director clearly wants to make it R, but Blumhouse must be calling the shots because there are so many instances in this film where the camera has to turn away as the violence starts to unfold. I was questioning a lot of decisions though as this movie started to play out, specifically with the story. You are going to hear a lot of people compare Megan 2.0 to Terminator 2 or even Aliens, mainly because both of those franchises also started out as straight horror movies and then kind of segued with the sequels into more action horror. I definitely see the comparison, but I also don't think it's fair because both Aliens and Terminator 2 are phenomenal movies, arguably even better than their predecessors. I would make that argument. Megan 2.0 is not. And if I were to compare it to a different film, I would say it's closer to Terminator 3 than Terminator 2. I mean, it really kind of follows the whole playbook through. You have a brand new model, upgraded, of the Terminator who's gone off script, starting to kill people it's not supposed to. And so Gemma's brought back in to bring back Megan to stop this new threat. While that premise seems simple on its face, I can assure you things get convoluted beyond belief as the film starts to go on. I don't know why screenwriters think that they have to jumble shit up as they're writing. Some of the greatest movies ever are basic as hell. Jaws, Jurassic Park, Terminator 1 and 2. I mean, these are not complicated films. Bad guy shows up, there's chase scenes, they gotta get somewhere to stop him, and that's it. Easy enough. And Megan 2.0 starts that way. But after about an hour of constant exposition, monologues, and layered plots that don't really make any sense if you think about it, you start to just check out completely. I honestly had no idea what was going on as the film was starting to wind down.
Would you prefer I gave you a printout that you can read at your own pace?
And I've seen a lot of damn movies at this point, so for me to not at least follow along enough, I mean, I was sitting there watching thinking, why the fuck is any of this even happening? I feel like the villain went out of its way to make unnecessary complicated steps, and I'm being vague with my choice of words because this is spoiler free. Now, as someone that really enjoyed Megan, but obviously saw the potential for something greater due to the PG-13 hampering, and know that R-rated nonsense they came out with on streaming was complete cash grabby bullshit, it added like a tiny little flavor of blood and nothing more. I saw a lot of opportunity for the sequel to expand on the character. Maybe there's the Ken equivalent of a Megan in the sequel and you could have some fun with that. But no, instead they decided to change genres, try something completely different. I applaud them for that. I respect the concept, but the execution was lacking. Now, I don't think Megan 2.0 is a straight up bad movie. It was entertaining enough to a point. It is 30 fucking minutes too long. This could have been an easy breezy, beautiful cover girl, 90 minutes in and out the door. Probably wouldn't have any problems because they would have simplified the plot to the point where I could at least understand why things were happening. It's very big on the humor this time around, and I think it worked most of the time. I was having chuckles, I was along for the ride. Of course, this is all subjective, right? The first half of the movie, far stronger than the second half. I was really into the upgraded villain. I was into the mystery behind everything. I like the idea of bringing Megan back, joining forces with her, because she is a fun anti-hero to use. But things take a stupid amount of time to get going. I don't think Megan shows up for a good 40 minutes in her actual physical form. She's constantly seen in TVs in a disembodied voice, and she's at one point put into a green little Teletubby machine, her words. It's not the same. The voice is fun and sassy, but you need to have the full package to get an idea. A perfect example would be in the trailer. You get that Britney Spears song playing, it's super fun and lively, she's in the raccoon suit flying around, and you hear her say, "Hang on to your vaginas." It's dumb. It's funny. I appreciated it.
Hold on to your vaginas.
In the movie, however, she says it from a car radio. When they're about to take off, it doesn't have the same impact. That's not as fun or lively. The sequel, for some reason, went all in on Gemma. Gemma is the main star of this one. She had a big role in the first for sure, but I thought we would at least get a little bit more balance between her and Megan. But Gemma's really running this thing to the point where she even has her own version of the alien's power loader. I mean, it's a lot more sleek, but still, it's there, and she utilizes it, of course. It tries a lot of different things. At some points, it's a James Bond movie. At others, it's a budget Mission Impossible film. And then it attempts to tip the hat to the first movie by bringing in some of the references, like Megan doing her all fours run at someone, or once again bringing in a dance number that felt incredibly forced in this film, and I don't see how anybody's gonna be emulating this for the gram. So to summarize, Megan 2 unfortunately falls in that mid category. I'm Rotten Tomatoes certified, and occasionally I have a movie like this come along that is not so binary. I'm not so confident in saying it's a rotten, and I'm not so confident in saying it's a fresh, because it waffles between the two. Since movies are incredibly expensive these days, unless you have some sort of a monthly pass, I would not say go out and waste money on Megan 2.0. It's something that you'll probably find in streaming in a month. If you have one of those passes and you enjoy the first movie, sure, it's got enough here where you can sit through it comfortably enough. You might be checking your watch though after an hour and 45 thinking, why is this still on? But I can confidently say I'll stick with the first Megan any day of the week, and I really hope the third inevitable entry takes things a little closer to horror again, and not whatever this action sci-fi comedy was attempting. And once more, I'm really curious to see what the box office numbers are like for this film, because I don't think it has that same energy going for it, that same momentum, that same viralness that the first did, with the dance, with the costume. They might have attempted to wedge it in there, but I don't see it working out. I still think it'll probably do well, but how well? That's the question I'm gonna keep an eye on. Number 11, Blumhouse. The McDonald's equivalent of horror is back. They have themselves another PG-13, now that's what I call thriller film, called Drop. It's a quick and easy hour and 40-minute long film directed by Christopher Landon, and while he has done some great stuff in the past, does he Christopher Landon this one? Is it worth going to instead of seeing Minecraft for the 14th time, throwing popcorn and yelling chicken jockey? Let's find out in a spoiler-free review. Let's start with the basic premise. This is a thriller. It's not a horror movie. It's not scary in the slightest. It's kind of a bottle episode type of story. Most of it takes place in a fancy restaurant. And I do classify this as another one of those Blumhouse Kids Bop movies. The teens will probably eat it up. People my age kind of know the formula. It's a little stale. You might find yourself rolling your eyes at some of the situations. However, it is entertaining. It is engaging. You're going to kind of be guessing your way through it. Oh, that person's in on it. That person's the killer. That person's just an idiot. I don't like that person, but we'll move on. Now, being a film aficionado, a cinephile, I figured this whole thing out 30 minutes into the movie. That didn't necessarily take away from it, though. It just kind of speaks to how formulaic the whole thing is. That is to say, this movie's not going to set the world ablaze with some deep, profound storyline or some amazing character moments. No, it's just kind of your paint by numbers, by the book affair. Not bad, not good, right in what I would consider the mid-range. Megan Faye plays Violet. Violet's had some bad luck come her way with the loss of her husband, and now she's raising a child alone. So it's time for her to get back into the dating pool. Which, I'm not envious for her situation, as she is a tall, blonde, attractive woman that speaks well and seems to be pretty knowledgeable about things. Good luck out there, lady. She's going on her first date with photographer Henry. They're gonna go out for a nice meal up in a high-rise, a really Hillary Swanky location. As I looked at Henry and listened to him speak, I was 1000% positive that he was one of the Hemsworth brothers. Not Chris, not Liam, but the third, elusive Hemsworth, finally getting back into the films. He is not a Hemsworth brother. The actor is Brendan Sklenner. Now, is it possible he changed his last name so as not to be associated with his family, wanting to forge his own path in Hollywood? I think so, because he looks an awful lot like a Hemsworth brother, but let's move past it. We are going to watch these two for the majority of the film, try to have a meal, listen to their stupid, annoying, over-the-top waiter, put on this whole project, put on a whole pageant for them, while someone is secretly texting her. This mystery person is harassing her throughout the night, sending her threats, showing her pictures of her little child at home and the babysitter who's her sister. So she's really a baby sister. That doesn't make sense. And so the majority of the movie is going to be a really tough game, as Simon says, for Violet. Think Die Hard 3, John McClane doing the whole Simon Gruber thing, holding signs out in public, having to really do the equations of water displacement. Think Speed. Pop quiz, hotshot. Your kid's at home and there's a bad guy inside. You need to poison the person across from you. What do you do? What do you do? If you like that type of movie, this one's gonna entertain for sure, because there's some fun scenarios that take place throughout. And the location was a fun one. You got the high rise, you got the beautiful cityscape. This is a really pretty looking film. I like the color grading in this, the neon hues thrown in. It's funny, the main restaurant location has all these orbs in the air, these balls with candles in them or lights or something. They have this beautiful shine to them. I was reminded of a recent movie, Black Bag, which also had these orb things, these candles on the table, and it looked terrible in that film, a movie I enjoyed, but the lighting was absolutely abysmal. Here, the director gets it right. This is a crisp looking film. It's got very good production values. Now, as for the theme song, the music, the score, I truly don't know. I don't remember. There's got to be some in there, but it did not stand out in any sort of noticeable way. If you're big into horror and you're looking for some crazy kills, some scary moments, look somewhere else. This is not the film for you. It's just going to be a lot of Morpheus telling Neo to go to this location, do this thing, now go back over here, sort of a situation. If you're a teenager looking to go on a date, this is a good one to see. If you're a grown-ass man who's kind of seen it all and you're looking for Hollywood to shake things up and really blow you away with the film, this is not the movie for you. It's a Blumhouse movie, meaning you watch it, you walk away, you don't really think about it after a week. And since it's 2025, most of the film is going to be our Violet checking her phone every 3 minutes and looking around the room suspiciously trying to figure out who's doing this, which is difficult because everyone else is looking at their phones at all times as well, reminding us of the crippling reality we have made for ourselves. How depressing. All right, well, there you have it. My thoughts on Drop. Nothing too exciting going on here, but you could do worse all the same. Number 10. Look out, dog that played Air Bud and Dwayne Johnson in his new movie where he's trying to act for once. We have a genuine contender for Best Actor this year, and that's the Nova Scotia duck trolling retriever named Indy. He's gonna find himself in a pickle as he and his owner move into a haunted house. And the twist about Good Boy, the whole film is done through the perspective of the beloved dog. Well, I saw the movie and now I want to talk to you about it in a spoiler-free review. Let's begin. Okay, what we have here is an R-rated hour and 12-minute film. You heard me. An hour and 12 minutes. And apparently it was shot over the course of 3 years using the director's own dog, Indy, as he's also known as in the film. It's interesting that this movie is only an hour and 12 minutes. I found that out after the fact. While I watched it, it definitely felt 90 minutes. And it's probably because this is a gimmicky type of movie. And I'm not saying that as a negative. I happen to like a good gimmick, as long as it's executed well. Thankfully, Good Boy is executed pretty well. But as the movie was unfolding, I kept thinking to myself, man, this is the type of movie you put in a film reel. This is what you use to pitch the real movie, the real story you want to tell. Good Boy seems like the perfect idea for a good 30-minute film that you pitch to people and you go, all right, look at the skills I have, which you can definitely see. Good Boy is lit incredibly well. It's a beautiful looking movie. The atmosphere is powerful. I really dug the environments, the sound design, the rain pouring down on our dog protagonist, the fog in the woods covering up potential threats nearby. Good Boy's all about the atmosphere because the story is paper thin. Todd inherits a house in the woods. He sells his own place. He and his dog Indy move in, really try to make this house a home. And he and Indy are pretty much the only characters you see in the film, outside of an occasional annoying phone call or text from her sister and the neighborhood hunter they'll bump into once in a while. So the majority of the film is gonna rest on our furry friend, and I have to say, he is great to look at on camera. He's a beautiful dog. The acting's on point. You know, as much facial expressions as you can get out of a dog, he certainly does it. It's just, when you're looking at an animal as opposed to a human, you're missing a lot of the characteristics and a lot of things you can relate to in a performance. So it's just mostly him nervously looking at corners of walls, at shadows, possibly figures showing up. The reason the film puts the focus on the dog is because he has the ability to see what others can't. He's got the Haley Joel Osment in him. He sees dead people, or dead things, or ghosts, or something. I don't want to give it away, but something mysterious is looming just beyond the shadows. And unbeknownst to his owner, Todd, they're not here to be friends. The thing that I found a little bit odd is they don't do a whole lot with the whole dog angle. Like, you replace Indy with a hot chick like you get in most horror movies, not a lot of the story needs to change. The camera would just be taken up a few feet. I was kind of hoping at one point Indy would have to wear one of those doggy cones, and so it would really narrow his perspective, and so you could see how it could be kind of creepy, where he's looking around at the ceiling and he's seeing shadows bounce off. Or maybe there's a fetch scene with the owner. He tosses the ball and the dog runs into the woods, and what he sees is like a severed arm or something. But no, none of that stuff. It's really just the dog going from room to room, getting a little creeped out. There's reflections of things in the background. Again, the atmosphere is really good. I just feel like the gimmick wasn't fully realized. Instead, the director perplexingly decides to go a different direction with the gimmick itself, which is to hide the faces of everyone the dog comes into contact. The owner, Todd, is constantly in the shadows, and I genuinely don't know why or how this helps the story. And there's always excuses to obscure him. Think about a comedy show where you find out one of the actresses is like 8 months pregnant, so they constantly have her wearing parkas, or she's walking around with like a globe of the earth. That's what's happening here, except for with faces. Example, it's raining outside, which causes the owner to wear a rain jacket, hood up, causing a shadow, don't see the face. Or it's always dark in the house, and the lighting is just hitting him in a way where you only see underneath the chin. When they come into contact with the hunter, he is fully decked out in camo, including the zipper over the face. I, for the life of me, can't understand why, and I found it really distracting. The gimmick was there with the dog. We didn't need to add one on top of it. Now you might be wondering, well, is the movie scary? It's gonna, scares are in the eye of the beholder. I think I did not find it scary. Atmosphere is one thing, but it wasn't genuinely like creepy. I just thought it sounded and looked really pretty. You have 2 or 3 jump scares in the movie. I found one of them to be effective. The other 2, I was like, really? The biggest scare of the night, ironically, was from my own doing. I was focused on the film. I shifted a little bit. My arm must have grazed the side of the chair that has the controls for the recline on the seats. So I was watching, and then out of nowhere, I kind of started to levitate back. I'm like, oh my God, I'm being possessed. What's happening right now? It was like half a second. Blink and you miss it sort of a scare, but that one got me. Can't really give the credit to the film though for that. So, and yeah, it's kind of a one-trick puppy. I don't have much else to say about the film. I was excited for Good Boy. I thought the premise seemed intriguing, kind of clever. Unfortunately, this is a situation where the doggy dish is only half full. I wanted a full meal. I did not get it. I do think it's at least entertaining enough for a one-time watch. I am positive on it. I think it's worth a watch eventually, maybe when it comes home to streaming. Unless you have a movie pass, though, it's tough for me to say, yeah, go pony up $11, $12, $15, whatever it is at your theater these days. Just not enough there. Okay, that's all I got for you on Good Boy. Thankfully, not a bad dog, just not a great one either. Number 9. Heart Eyes plunges us right into the middle of things. We don't have an origin story here for our villain. No, we're already a couple years deep, going around every Valentine's Day, slaughtering loved ones left and right. This is going to pose a problem for Allie and Jay, because even though these two just met and they're not actually dating, the Valentine's Day killer seems to think they are. And Cupid's going to be shooting some arrows, but they're not the kind that pierces you with love. No, they're the kind that blows through your head. The film is rated R. It's a beautiful 90-minute fast food outing. You're in the house before you know it. And it's giving Thanksgiving in terms of the vibe. It knows what it is and it has fun with it. It relishes in some of the schlockiness, although it's really not campy at all. It's just kind of cool and fun. And not only does Heart Eyes have some pretty creative, gross looking, awesome kills, it actually has a good love story. And that's absolutely thanks to Olivia Holt and Mason Gooding, along with the 3 writers credited on this film. They have a great chemistry here. The rapport, it's working back and forth. The thing I enjoy most about this is how they set these two up in your dumb, corny way where they meet and bonk heads, and there's this dopey interchange. It doesn't work at all. And so instead, as these two start to survive together, they're naturally kind of having feelings for each other based on just how they speak normally. So the main characters, very well. The supporting, also pretty damn good. We have Devon Sawa and Jordana Brewster in here playing detectives Hobbs and Shaw, a not so subtle reference to the Fast and Furious franchise, which she is part of, and they just straight up say it. You know, like, isn't that a Hobbs and Shaw? Isn't that a movie franchise? It's good. It's good stuff. But we have to address the killer in the room. Is he, she, it cool? Yeah, I like the design, the gimp mask with the hearts, the zipped up mouth, the crossbow with the springboard arrows. And yes, this is another in a very, very, very long line of who is the killer movies. So there will be that part of you as the film goes on thinking, it's this person. Nope, actually it's that person. Maybe both. Maybe it's 8 of these people. Maybe it's just that baby over there. That baby's looking pretty sinister. Wait a second. Baby, cherub, Valentine's Day. Oh, it's coming together. I don't think there's a single baby in the movie, so calm down. I'm not spoiling anything. Although I don't want to brag, but I did figure out the killer. Okay, that I did get before, way early, as a matter of fact. I don't think this one was too great at the mystery, nor do I think it cared that much. It was pretty much on the nose the entire time. And that's really at the gooey center of Heart Eyes. And while yes, the ingredients are very familiar, it does it so well that you really can't complain that nothing really new is being brought to this thing. If you're not sick of the Thanksgiving-esque type of film, then you will enjoy this, I think. If you're already kind of over the whole, okay, the horror killer is a Santa Claus, the killer's only slaughtering people on Easter, or he only murders in the bread aisle on Thursdays between the hours of 6 to 10.
If it's not bothering you yet, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't enjoy this one.
Number 8.
If you're like me, you've probably spent many a restless night wondering why has Hollywood not made a film about killing an innocent unicorn, having it come back to life, and seek out its revenge. It's just such an obvious premise. Thankfully, A24 has heard our siren screams, and director/writer Alex Sharfman has put it into picture. But does it live up to our dreams? Well, I'm going to tell you about it right now in a spoiler-free review. And if you saw the trailers before seeing this film, you might be thinking to yourself, all right, it's A24, it's going to be a dark film with a little bit of humor mixed in, might have a bit of artsy bullshit throughout, and you'd be mostly wrong going into this film, because it's kind of the opposite. Death of a Unicorn is comedy heavy. It's dark humor, grotesque at times, but it's humor nonetheless. And as for the fears and the scariness of it all, that's kind of second. That takes a backseat. And by backseat, I mean it's backloaded too. You're gonna spend a good 45 minutes or so just kind of getting to know the characters in this movie and really soaking in the relationship, or lack thereof, between Paul Rudd's character and Jenna Ortega. Paul's character Elliot is trying to be a good father in the worst ways possible by putting business first. He somehow thinks that he's putting family first. His daughter Ridley's a bit estranged at this point, being off at school and not having the connection that they once had when her mother/his wife was alive. Yeah, this is another one of those movies where one of the parents is dead, so we're gonna have to deal with that. As funny as Paul Rudd can be, this was not one of those times for me. He's a pathetic weasel of a character. He's very unlikable, which is really hard to say about Paul Rudd, who is incredibly likable most of the time. If you've seen Jenna Ortega in anything, you've seen her in everything. And again, she's Jenna Ortega with a little bit more acne. Don't worry, it'll go away soon enough. Because as the film unfolds, we will learn more and more about the mysteries of the Great Unicorn. As far as the plot goes, I'm going to keep it very basic as to stay away from spoilers. Father and daughter road trip it across the country to go meet up with his employer, and they hit a unicorn on the way. Now, as concerned as I was for the health of the mythological beast, I was equally as concerned with the airbags not going off on a modern car after it just runs into something head on. Maybe that's not how things work in vehicles now, but I don't need to spend time on it, because this movie's not dwelling on anything serious. It is a very silly film, and all the characters in the movie are very cartoonish. And I myself had a very fun time watching this. Now, I did go in expecting something far darker, more grisly, more scary, with the occasional dark humor thrown in, so I felt like the trailers were a little misleading, and while I do think that would have been a pretty awesome movie, I was still very happy with what I got, which was a very creative film with some very beautiful cinematography and a very fake-ass looking unicorn. A unicorn that is proudly displayed. Now, typically when you have a lighter budget, you might keep the creature in the shadows more, play with the lighting a bit, use some animatronics, things that could potentially mask some of the shortcomings in the budget department, but this film is proud of the cartoonish nature of this creature, and as much as it can kind of take you out of it at times, I still dug the design. And since this film is clearly having some fun, I was able to enjoy it and go along with the ride. While Rudd and Ortega are perfectly fine to watch on screen, it's the rich, douchey family that I got most of my entertainment from. Specifically, Tay Leone as Belinda, who I haven't seen in a million years. It was fantastic watching Tay Leone again. I missed her. Didn't realize it, but I did. And her son Shepard, played by Will Poulter, who over the years has really grown on me as an actor. He's the rich, cocksure, spoiled brat who brings nothing to the table, yet assumes he's the most profound, deep thinker in the room. Now, if you're looking for scares, you might want to check the stable across the street. You're not going to find any here. This is not a very scary film. There are moments that could provide some tension, a couple Jurassic Park-esque scenes, people hiding under cars, peering around the sides of walls, you get shadows off the side of things, reflections. That stuff's all good, but the creatures are so cartoony. Again, they don't feel real ever. And because almost everyone in here sucks and you kind of want to die, you don't care so much when they do. I enjoyed the wackiness of it. The premise is great. It's different. It's a very pretty looking movie with a good score. And the way they play off the unicorn, build up the lore, do some interesting things with the creature, keeps the film from becoming stale, as there's always another surprise right around the corner. Finally, as for the kills and the gore, again, it's so hard for me to even judge at this point because I'm so desensitized by it all. It felt like a hard PG-13. There are some parts that I guess could be deemed gross, but for me, this is nothing. This is just a picnic. Let's put it this way, my 12-year-old son would have no problem watching anything this film can dish out. And I'll leave it there.
Number 7. For those of you tossing and turning at all hours of the night, wondering when Hollywood is going to make a movie that's pro-sex bot. Hoping that finally we'll get a film where we treat these ladies with the respect they deserve, well, I have good news for you. Companion is in theaters now, and it flips the script on the genre. For once, the hardest working robotic ladies in the industry get their due. And I'm going to tell you about it in a spoiler-free review. Written and directed by Drew Hancock, it's Herbie Hancock. Companion's an easy breezy watch that might start a little slow, but before you know it, you're off to the races. The main star of this film is Iris, played by Sophie Thatcher. She was recently in Heretic. If you saw that one, highly recommend. I thought it was a very good flick. And this is too. And she's dynamite in both. I like her more here because she's really given that surreal performance as an AI android walking around, kind of steps a little weird, looks a bit frail in comparison to some of these other movies that have come out lately, like Megan, where they're more sinister looking right up front, or the other one with Megan, as in Megan Fox, that went straight to Netflix. That wasn't very good. This is much better. Sophie's character Iris is the companion to Jack Quaid's character Josh. Josh has purchased this device and, they're in love as much as anyone can be in love with this humanoid abomination. The plot of the film is very straightforward, but there are a couple twists and turns here and there to keep you engaged in the movie. I'm not going to go into the story details at all because it all kind of is built upon what happens at the beginning and everything after is a domino effect. And honestly, I don't remember the trailer before seeing the film. It probably spoils a whole bunch of it. We're just going to leave it there. What I can tell you is this. It's actually a very funny movie. There's some dark humor, there's just some straight up comedy from some of the characters that she interacts with. There is a humanity to Sophie, arguably more so than some of the other characters she's going to be talking to. And even though her emotions are all due to some clever programming, really when you think about it, so are human emotions. Which leads to some absolute depth and layer to the commentary throughout this film. There is some violent, gory scenes. I would put it right below Smile 2 in terms of the blood and some of the violent acts. It's not going to be anything too jarring. We're not even close to Terrifier territory. Companion came out right on the tail end of January, which is going to throw some people off because January, as we know, notoriously the dumping ground for terrible films. Companion ends the month on a positive, on an optimistic note leading into February. Now, if you're looking for some nudity, if you're looking for some naughty sex bot action, not gonna find it here. There's really just a spackling of some sexual content, no nudity at all, which is gonna disappoint some of the pervs out there like myself. But no, this was fine. I was cool with this movie. It was refreshing to get away from the evil robot angle for once and actually make that the most sympathetic character of the lot. We got some clever dialogue, we got strong tension in this movie, cinematography on point, really no notes at the end of the day. It's not gonna set the world ablaze, but so far it's the best movie I've seen of the year. And so right now it's number 1 on my list. All right, well, there you have it. A quick, easy review for Companion, a movie that knows exactly what it is, and it's not going to waste audiences' time getting to its point. Number 6. The Conjuring franchise continues to flourish. We've had a couple of those Annabelle and Nun spin-off movies, and here we are at The Conjuring: The Last Rites, the 4th installment to the mainline series. And we're back with power couple Ed and Lorraine Warren. They're so hot right now. This rated R, over 2-hour final chapter in the saga promises to be the most intense, the most extreme, the most finaling. This was the one that broke Ed and Lorraine, caused them to hang up the cross, hang up the book of spells or whatever fucking potions they have, and call it a day. Now, whether you or I believe in the supernatural or these two individuals who are based on real people, that's quite frankly inconsequential to whether or not the movie is good or not. And that's what I focus on. I'm going to tell you about today. The movie, The Conjuring: The Last Rites, I want to get into it in a spoiler-free review. We have Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson returning as their iconic characters. I love these two actors in these roles. They have this natural chemistry, this rapport together. Farmiga is especially fun for me. I like how she kind of squints the eyes and feels the presence of an unknown evil entity as she enters a room, clutches at her brooch once in a while, like, oh, heavens to Betsy, there's some strange, horrible occurrence taking place here. This house has history. This house has history! He doesn't sound anything like what I just did, but we'll press forward. It's been a while since I've seen the other Conjuring films. I don't remember Lorraine being so in touch. She probably was. I'm misremembering or whatever, but it's really fun watching her go everywhere now, and it's just constantly, she has this unsettling feeling, just, oh, there's stuff here. Oh, I'm at a restaurant, but something's wrong, something's amiss. It could be just because this one in particular is the last movie, so the Warrens are directly involved in a capacity, making things a lot more intense for her. In either case, it's always fun watching Vera Farmiga just go all over in this movie and just kind of look over her shoulder slowly, giving that sad puppy dog face, because she knows there's something in the room that should not be there. Something unholy and unspeakable. If I ever saw Vera Farmiga on the streets and she was looking like she does in the Conjuring movies, just kind of clutching at the side of her shirt, oh my God, I would instantly take a beeline the other direction because I know something's wrong. I know something is not checking out with her. Joining them on their misadventure is their daughter Judy, getting a much larger role this time around, played by Mia Tomlinson. Maybe it's pronounced Maya Tomlinson. I'm sure I don't know. It's M-I-A. And you know who else was M.I.A.? Bryce Dallas Howard. So instead of her, they cast this young woman. I shit you not, I probably would have enjoyed this movie 10% more if I wasn't totally infatuated with this character Judy and how much she looked like a Howard daughter. And I was so confident as the movie was winding down that she was in fact Bryce Dallas Howard's sister or cousin, that when I brought up IMDb leaving the movie theater and found out it wasn't, nothing in the world made any sense anymore. If you have seen Last Rites, please let me know if I'm losing my mind or if this woman has an uncanny resemblance to Bryce Dallas Howard. Not every shot, but a good 80% of the time, I'm looking at her, they have the same nose, they have the same mouth, they have the same eye. The whole face is the same. It's like she did a Nicolas Cage, I want to take his face off sort of a situation. Okay, she's good in the movie. Let's get that aside. All the characters, they're doing a great job. Since this is a new film, it's a new story, we're going to be focusing on the Smurl family. But that's just part of the equation, unfortunately. The Last Rites is going to have dual stories going on in tandem. We're going to take half of it with the Smurls. We're going to take the other half with the Warrens. Little Judy's grown up real fast, and she found herself a nice boyfriend. And he's going to find out dealing with the Warren family is not the spiritual awakening he intended it to be. Sorry, I was doing a South Park thing. Stan Marsh. A good episode from like 1,000 years ago. The movie's gonna hop around in history a little bit. We're gonna see the Warrens on their first job, their first gig. I don't know what they call these things. I want to give a shout out to the casting director for the guy they got to play young Patrick Wilson. He's a shoo-in. He looks a lot like him in younger form. And then I want to give whatever the opposite of a shout out is to that same casting director for the young woman they got to play Vera Farmiga. She looks nothing like her at all. So casting director, great job, but also terrible job. Since we have two different storylines that hopefully will connect together by the time all is said and done, you know they will, the movie has the potential opportunity to fire on both fronts or completely drop the ball. Kind of like the casting director, a little bit of both. The Warren stuff, while all fine and mostly wholesome and a little bit interesting, is not near as fascinating as what's going on with this Smurl family. The large crew that's currently being haunted. I dug everything about this tight-knit family, loved the 80s setting. It just brought me back to like films like Home Alone and Beethoven and, you know, all the ones from the 90s. I know those are 90s, but still, just kind of that heartwarming wholesomeness, the chaos going around in the house had a bit of a Wonder Years look to it. So for the most part, the dueling story sort of thing worked for me. I found it to be a nice reprieve when there was a lot of like horror elements to go back to the Warrens, calm things down a little bit. Now, since this is the final chapter, supposedly, unless it makes a whole bunch of money, they'll do more. They'll just keep wheeling these poor actors out as they age if there's money to be made. We, of course, have to do unnecessary callbacks, winks to the audience, references from the past films. Some of it felt forced, some of it was quite fine. Overall, my experience with this movie was mostly pleasant. Obviously, we go to Conjuring films for the scares. Where I stand with Conjuring is I really like the first one. The second one, not as much, but it kind of grew on me on a second watch. I do dig the change in the tone. I don't like the third movie, the Devil Made Me Do It or whatever that thing's called. That's when The Conjuring to me felt like it got too blockbustery, a blockbuster horror film. And this one kind of skirts the line between both. 85-90% of it is really damn strong. I think, ironically, when the Warrens finally start helping out this family, that's when the movie loses me. All the haunting stuff, especially in the first 2/3 of the film, was great. It was grounded. It was believable from a, like a visual standpoint. Nothing looked fake, except for, some of the ghostly characters you see in the trailer. They are very CG looking. And unnecessarily so. Oftentimes, it's just a lady with some disheveled hair and some bad skin. Why did she need to be CG when she's just sitting in a corner of a room? Since the Conjuring movies are never about the kills, they need to up the ante in terms of the scares, the fear factor, and just the tense moments. And this one nails it for me. There were a few scenes in the film, one specifically revolving around a daughter looking through an old VHS tape, that I thought knocked it out of the park. I was tensed up during that scene as she's rewinding footage. We've seen it many times before. The classic, oh, is there something that I didn't see when my dad was like whipping that freaking shitty camera around the room? But just waiting for it to show up. And then the payoff was excellent, I thought. There are several scenes like that where you just know something's gonna happen, and sure enough, it does, and you're still satisfied with the conclusion. I wish I could say the same with the satisfaction I got from the conclusion of the movie, because unfortunately, the storyline is building up the promise of a big payoff. Like, what is this mystery? What is going on? How are the Warrens attached? And really, it just ends with a whimper. Also, I think it's really funny that Lorraine and Ed go into these houses and they don't really do dick ever. They just kind of wander around and she's like, oh, yep, there's a presence in the room. Oh, there's a presence here. They bust out some King James Bible or some shit and they read a couple passages and it's all over before you know, or they touch a wall or the side of a coffee table, or they grab a mug that has some sort of significance to the entity. Like, there's just not anything there, and it kind of goes to the whole fraud nature of these two people to begin with. Because most of these movies have a really great first and second acts, but when it's time to actually deal with the problem, they don't have a proton pack or a ghost trap. It's just a lot of bullshit. The last little thing I want to say about the story is the film goes all in on the nursery rhyme, Lucy Locket lost her pocket. They utter that fucking nursery rhyme like 40 times in this movie. Hell, 50% of Judy's dialogue is just reciting that rhyme because she's also a medium. She has a connection. So the only way to stave off all of these creepy things is to get into her shell and protect herself with a barrier of nursery rhyming. As one does. As far as the visuals go, I really like how these Conjuring movies look. The first two. Third one, again, that did nothing for me. It got too Hollywood. This one brings things back for the most part. Again, the first 85-90% is really strong. And visually, it looks great. I love that 80s motif that they're going with, the vehicles, the clothing. It's all there. It's all presented very well. There is, unfortunately, some of that modern CG making its way into the film. There's a scene akin to The Shining. We have gallons of blood pouring around our characters for nothing more than a little bit of spectacle. But none of this really detracts much from the film. It looks cool for the most part, again, except for some of that bad CG on the characters. I just wish the final act of the film had something more intriguing, something more to say, but unfortunately, there's just not much there. Overall, though, I found The Conjuring Last Rites to be a fun, watchable, engaging time, and when I wasn't infatuated with this Bryce Dallas Howard clone, I got a couple of genuine scary moments in this film that I could enjoy. And I think I'll leave it there. There you have it, The Conjuring Last Rites. Fun, disposable, Nice little ending to the series if it actually is the finale. I have my doubts. I have my reservations. We'll see if these Warrens come back again for another last ride. But for now, this is what we're left with, and I'm satisfied with that conclusion. Number 5. Are you looking for the feel-good family film of the year? Well, look no further. Bring Her Back is a good old-fashioned supernatural body horror, featuring a plucky blind girl, her angsty teenage brother, and a creepy-ass little boy who really would love to eat a chicken, or anything he can get his hands on. Cards on the table, most of what I said is inaccurate. Bring Her Back is not a fun family film. It is kind of disturbing nightmare fuel that was so hard to watch, my wife didn't sleep last night. You're welcome for the recommendation, honey. I unfortunately did not get to see this movie when it hit theaters. I was in the middle of moving. It was a whole production, but it's now out on digital. I was able to give it a watch, and I have some thoughts. Back follows Andy and his sister Piper. Mom's been out of the picture for a while, and unfortunately they just lost their father to a shower mishap. Since Andy's just shy of 18, he cannot be the parental guardian for Piper, so he and his sis are gonna have to go stay with a very creepy-ass lady. A lady and another child I mentioned earlier named Oliver. He's a character. He'll haunt your nightmares. I am going to keep this spoiler-free and not go much further into the plot details. I'll just say that obviously they're going to have some situations come up at this woman's house. Something bizarre is going on with her and that child Oliver. And this poor kid Andy is going to be dealing with some psychological warfare. While his poor stepsister just tries to figure out what's going on. She's blind after all, so good luck trying to feel your way through this situation. Bring Her Back is directed by those same fine gentlemen that did Talk to Me last year. I think it should have been called Talk to the Hand, but it's Talk to Me. I loved that film. It was one of my favorite horror movies last year, or whenever it came out 7 years ago. Everything is like a million years at this point. This movie's rated R for fucked up shit, and it's about 1 hour and 44 minutes long. Now, if you have not seen the movie yet, I guess I will do you the favor of giving you a warning. Bring Her Back is incredibly intense, and it will not be for everyone. If you find yourself waking up in the morning, you know what? I'm really in the mood for a movie that beats the shit out of kids, treats them like absolute garbage, and has a pretty miserable ending, then this is the movie for you. And also, you might want to get yourself checked out, because you might just have the early signs of a serial killer. My wife, who I mentioned earlier, did not sleep last night, hated this film. She does not like movies where kids get hurt or they're put in terrible situations. I myself hate children and people in general, so I was actually really happy when the kids were in pain and in suffering. I'm like, yeah, I love this movie. It's so fun. Give me more. No, seriously, this is a very hard movie to watch as a parent. As an adult, I was a little bit squeamish here and there going, no, please don't. Not like this. Not like this. I see it's highly rated on Rotten Tomatoes, and I can see why, though. It visually looks beautiful. It hits hard. Everything works. The acting is solid. The score is creepy. It has a good build to it. You might find yourself in the first 40 minutes going, things are moving kind of slow. Where is this going? I'm kind of waiting for, oh! And then the other shoe drops. And then you find yourself thinking, kind of missed the first 40 minutes. Can we get back to that? Can we go back there again? The last time I felt this uncomfortable watching a movie, peckish even, was during Midsommar. This is not a movie to take a day to if you're planning on scoring that night. It will leave you feeling a little queasy and maybe even hating each other for having watched it. And while I myself am able to separate this from real-world scenarios, I know that this is just a story. It's gruesome, it's disturbing, but at the end of the day, it is just fantasy. It is a fiction. But there are plenty of people out there that will not be able to handle a movie like this. It just shakes them to their core. They don't want to see this kind of violence and this kind of story told. And it just makes them feel kind of sick and disturbed sitting through it. Which is how I felt the other day watching the new Medea movie. That shit is haunting. At the end of the day, though, a movie like this did its job, and it did it damn well. It gave us an interesting premise. It gave us a horrific storyline. It set the tone, and it ran with it. And it does not shy away from showing you things you do not want to see. There's intense gore, there's psychological trauma, there's a swimming pool that has no water in it. Why do you even have the thing, lady? And I think there's just enough lore here to make repeat viewings more interesting because you can pick up things you didn't catch the first time, such as the footage that's presented on the VHS tapes that this woman constantly refers to, and she's really trying to get her beak wet on a new ritual she's trying to perform. And again, for the people that like watching kids get tortured, you're gonna have this movie on repeat all day at the house anyways. I don't need to tell you twice to rewatch it. As for me, I think I'm good at one. It was a very intense movie. It's a really fucked up movie. There's gonna be comments that say, oh, this is nothing. Have you never seen 1975's blah, blah, blah. No, I probably haven't. Okay, this isn't a channel that goes too deep in the disturbed, all right? I go to mostly mainstream movies that hit theaters, not some movie you find in an antique shop next to a monkey paw, all right? I prefer the director's last movie. Very disturbing also, but there is kind of a fun hook to it. This one's just really hard to watch, and that's not even necessarily a knock. You just gotta really be in the mood for this one. So that's my warning to you. Bring Her Back, a very well-made movie. I was fully engaged from front to back. I'll definitely be giving it a fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, but I don't knock you if you have no desire to watch all the same. And I would say in a different year, this probably wouldn't be in my top 10, but as it stands so far, 2025 has been an absolute dung heap of a year for movies. Just an absolute wasteland of trash. I think it might be one of the worst years on record since I've been born. We still have a ways to go, so maybe things will turn around, but my God, this first half, awful. And there you have it, Bring Her Back in at least my top 10 of the year. Grab the grandparents, grab your friends, grab the kids, get them around the couch and enjoy some film. Get the popcorn and sodas, because this one's fun for the whole family. I want to bring her back. I want to make her really jealous, want to make her really mad. Number 4. We have a 6th entry into the Final Destination franchise titled Final Destination Bloodlines. The series so far has been better than it has been worse, with a couple rocky ones in the middle, but we have the promise of another stellar entry. Now the question is, does Bloodlines bring more life into this franchise, or should we retitle this to Final Destination? I know. It's all I had. Let's go. Let's start. If you're a fan of the franchise, I think you'll enjoy this quite a bit. The movie's definitely having some fun. What we have here is an hour and 50-minute runtime. It does seem to go a little longer than it needs to. However, pacing-wise, I was on board for all of it. I could just see some spots where, yeah, you could trim it down just a hair. It is, like all the other ones, rated R, and it's making good use of that R rating. Not only are the kills very creative every single time, there's also a decent amount of gore, and some of it is absolutely brutal to watch. And unlike some of the past entries, it's more brutal because you actually like a lot of the characters that you're going to come into contact with here. Especially our main protagonist, Stephanie Reyes. She's having a hard time in college, and it's not because her grades are slipping. They are, but that's not the main reason. The issue is she's having a hard time getting any shut-eye. And these aren't your typical run-of-the-mill nightmares like her brother had once, where he said a hot dog was eating him instead of vice versa. I almost chuckled at that, had I not heard that same exact joke in an episode of Seinfeld years and years earlier, where Jerry said, one time I had a dream that a hamburger was eating me. So unless one of the writers out of the 3 that worked on this script got permission from the Seinfeld Corporation, I don't know if that's a thing, to use the joke, look for a lawsuit soon. Also, the brother really butchered the line delivery anyways, so was it worth it? Let me work it. As for all Final Destination movies, Destination, of course, short for destination, we're going to be spending time with a bunch of teenagers who are going to find themselves in precarious situations. Because Stephanie is going to uncover the hard, brutal truth about her reoccurring nightmare. That it's all tied together to her grandma Iris. And one faithful, horrific event that has shaped the bloodline for years to come. Again, I mentioned the characters are likable in this movie, which is impressive considering this is a modern film featuring teenagers. Oftentimes it seems like they have to be super assholey or just completely disconnected with the rest of the world. I just saw Clown in a Cornfield. I hated pretty much everyone in that film. But here, no, I thought, you know what? These kids are all right. These kids are perfectly fine. It's also worth noting this is the last film that our Candyman stars in. Tony Todd, we get to see him one final time on the big screen. And that was special. That was nice to just get that final send-off for an absolute legend. So we got spectacular deaths, we got likable leads, we got a good pace. When's the other shoe gonna drop? Where are the negatives at and where are the cons to this movie? Well, I already told you to go out and watch it. I said it's worth your time, I think, especially if you enjoy this franchise. Even if you're not familiar with it, it stands alone well enough. Obviously, you're going to get more out of it because there's ties to the other films. There's Easter eggs. There's just straight up references left and right. But that's more of an added bonus. Even if you go in fresh, you'll be fine. All right, so the cons for me, and they're not even really bad. They're just different, all right? I enjoy Final Destination because it had this dark energy to it. And yes, it was the first film in the franchise. You didn't know what the hell was going on at that airport scene. It was kind of chilling. You were with the characters along for the ride. Well, we've been on this ride now 6 films, so you know what to expect. And the shine is a little less shiny this time around. However, the film also knows this, and so it's gonna do misdirects. It's gonna have fun focusing in on things for you that you think might be the danger, but then it's something over here, or it'll cross-reference back later. They know what they're doing behind the camera. But what is missing, or I should say is different from that first film, is the look of this thing. I like that a lot of it takes place at night in the first movie. I like that it has a creepy energy to it. This movie does not have that. It is sillier. It does have that CG stank on it. It does have a very green screened look, especially in that intro, which is amazing. I really enjoyed the intro. It takes place in the late 70s, but there is a lot of stuff that just does not look natural. They're really trying to sponge out whatever budget they had to make this work. As far as cheap jump scares go, there was maybe one. I don't even know if it's really a jump scare. They did a good job with this overall. It's just not that type of movie. I didn't find it scary in the slightest. It's more of a roller coaster ride, which is apt because the third one takes place on a roller coaster to start. And I'm on for the ride. The whole time I'm there. Overall, this was a big win. I don't think it's the best of the franchise, but it's clearly a franchise that's far from dead. Number 3. Married couple Alison Brie and Dave Franco decide to get even closer with their brand new film together. Written and directed by Michael Shanks, this body horror might be just what the Love Doctor ordered, or it might be a little intense for people that aren't familiar with this type of film. But don't worry, I've got you covered. I'm going to tell you all about Together in a spoiler-free review. Let's begin. All right, Together. It's R-rated. It's an hour and 40 minutes long. It's got a tiny bit of nudity. It's got some weird body part blending, and it's got a few disturbing, spooky moments. But this is not the type of movie where you're going to be like hiding under the covers, like, oh my stars, oh my gosh. No, this is more of a thriller with a couple occasional spots where you might go, oh my heavens, that's a bit much. Alison Brie, outside of being a natural beauty, is just a very witty, humorous actress, and I'd like to see her in more comedies in the future. I mean, outside of Community that she absolutely shines in. Here, though, there's some great banter between this couple. There's some good chemistry, because they're married, of course. And the script is clever enough to keep you guessing where this relationship is gonna go. Because unlike in real life, these two are not married in the film, but they have started the next chapter in their life. Which, of course, entails Dave's character, Tim, being an absolute simp for his wife, abandoning his friends, and moving out to the country.
I love you.
Welcome to being basically married, Tim. You're gonna hate it here. These two move away from their tight-knit group in the cities and off into this country home where they're gonna try to start from scratch. They move into a pretty stunning home in the middle of nowhere out on a lot of acres. Thing probably costs a decent amount of money, which is a little hard to figure out because Tim, not bringing much revenue into the family, he's a struggling musician in his mid-30s who doesn't bring in a steady paycheck. And so I suppose that means Millie's the breadwinner here who's able to afford this place. She must have a very good job, checks notes, as a teacher. Make it make sense. Okay, outside of me being completely bewildered how they can afford this place, it does have a couple perks, one of which includes a beautiful walking trail that's going to lead to a sketchy hole in the ground that may or may not contain a mysterious pool of water that once you drink from will bond you to the significant other, quite literally. Yeah, these two lovebirds go out on a nature walk. Neither of them really knows how to read a compass, but they decide in their infinite wisdom that the best course of action is to just keep swimming. So they go further into the woods where they're gonna follow a sight of bells, which will probably lead them to their ultimate demise. You'll have to find that out on your own by watching the film because that's as far as I'm going with the story. I will just say, this one moved very well, kept me on the edge of my seat, and I had a great time watching it. In fact, This is one of my favorite horror movies of the year. And I know, you're probably watching this like, what? Holy shit. This guy just said this is one of his favorite movies of the year. I respect him so much that this blows my mind. I gotta go out and see it immediately. This asshole over here said this is one of his favorite movies. Everybody, quick, sound the alarms. Bee-oo-wee-oo. Sarcasm aside, I did really enjoy it, and I think you might too, if you're into this sort of thing. And by sort of thing, I mean, it's kind of creepy. There is some body dysmorphic shit going on. Alison Brie's like reverse crab walking at one point because this special water wants these two together, hence the title. Together. And so the rest of the film, you're gonna be sitting there with them trying to figure out why this is happening, how this is happening, and how the hell do they make it stop? And thankfully, the movie will kind of answer most of those questions to a satisfying enough degree. Now, as for the ending, I'm not saying what it is. I'll just say you might not like it. You might really enjoy it. I found myself on the negative and then moved to the positive by the time the credits rolled. So for me, it worked. But I can see that kind of pissing some people off to a point where they don't like the movie anymore. Let's just say this is one of those movies that's not necessarily about the destination. It's about the journey. And boy, how it's a fun one. Now, some people, when I say body horror, might think of the tried and true classic, The Thing, which would be great because The Thing is phenomenal. But they might think of something more modern, such as The Substance with Demi Moore. And if you're that person and you hated The Substance, so this would repel you, maybe tread a little lighter, because I don't think this is near as intense as something like The Substance. It's not near as gross. It's not near as graphic. The Substance was one of my favorite movies last year. My wife absolutely hated it, and she actually hated me for showing her. She's like, do you even know me? Bruh, do you even know me? She, for some reason, talks like a 14-year-old boy. But I made a mistake. And I think, you know what? I'm willing to make another one. I don't think she'll hate this. In fact, I think this will work for her. This type of movie doesn't have near the level of layers to it and social commentary that something like The Substance has. It also doesn't have near the outlandish moments. And if that doesn't convince some of you to see it, since I am a gentleman and a scholar at the end of the day, and know that some people will be more enticed by the finer things in the world, Alison Brie shows her boobies for a little bit. You're welcome.
I think you should sleep in the spare room tonight.
I agree. We need to keep our distance.
And don't worry, ladies, and some men, Dave Franco shows his butt, too. And you get a little dabble at the penis. A little dabble, little taste. Production's a fairly boring thing to talk about here. I'm not familiar with this writer and director. I believe he's newish on the market. He does a great job. This is a very pretty looking movie. You got some unique camera angles. He's not going nuts with anything. It's just very serviceable to the story. Music is the same. Very well tempoed across the board. The movie doesn't unfortunately have one or two breakout wow moments to it. It's just consistently good from beginning to end. Almost all pros aside, one tiny con I'll give it is there is a good chunk of predictability to the story. Outside of the somewhat unpredictable ending, you kind of know beat for beat where this is going to end up at least, who the main players are, what's going on underneath the surface. It's stuff you've seen before. But again, it's handled very well. Great acting from both of our leads, a very creative storyline, and a perfect pace with just enough visual clues to keep multiple watchings an earned thing. Well, there you have it, my review for Together. I recommend it. Check it out in theaters. Show it some support, show it some love, and we'll get more of this crazy shit down the road. Let me know if you saw it already, if you plan to now. Please, again, think of subbing to the show. Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Hit them all up, please. I have a brand new merch store. You might see some of the shirts floating under YouTube if you're there, but you can check that out. There's a link in the link tree. Lots of fun stuff. Shirts with the catchphrases on it. I think you'll enjoy them. Number 2. I would say I agree with my fellow movie critics about 90% of the time, but once in a while, a movie comes out that gets a ton of early buzz and praise, and I end up seeing it a little later and finding myself going, what? Really? This movie? One of those films was Barbarian from a couple years back. And here we are again with a new film by the same director called Weapons. It's getting massive early buzz. It had like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes after 100 reviews or so. And just like Barbarian, it had one hell of a trailer. So I went into this film cautiously optimistic, knowing that there could be a chance this director just does not work for me. Well, I saw it. And I have to tell you, I loved about 99.9% of this film. Let's talk about it in a spoiler-free review. Weapons is rated R, it's a tidge over 2 hours long, and the story is presented out of order. It narratively runs a little bit like Strange Darling, not presented in acts, but instead focusing on individual characters. I'm not the biggest fan of telling the story through a bunch of different lenses over the same course of time, but just different vantage points. However, it spices things up in Weapons. I'm gonna give you the most bare bones basic plot possible because I want you to go into this movie pretty fresh. What we have with Weapons is a town ravaged by grief as a classroom full of students up and vanishes at 2:17 in the morning. The suspects, very limited. You have the teacher, obviously. You have the one student of the 18 that didn't go missing in the middle of the night. And that's really about it. So we're gonna spend the next 2+ hours trying to unravel the mystery along with these protagonists and figure out where the hell these kids went, if they're still alive, and who or what is doing this to them. Julie Garner trades in the silver paint for a nice teaching job. She's gonna be the central protagonist here. You got Josh Brolin thrown into the mix and a few other key players come and go. All the issues I had with Julie Garner in Wolfman have been remedied here. She's a delight with this character. If you watch the trailer for Weapons, found yourself completely entranced by the vibes, the tone it was going for, I will say, kind of misleading. At least the trailer I saw presented this movie as a very dark, creepy, eerie film, but that's not really what you get here at all. There are some creepy moments for sure. There's nothing scary, and there's really not more than 1 or 2 jump scares max. It's actually quite a bit funnier than I was expecting, which probably won't come as a surprise to some of you that really liked Barbarian. There was some weird humor in that too. It works better here. In fact, everything I didn't like about Barbarian completely fixed here. This movie runs so buttery smooth. I was fully engaged the entire time. If you're a big fan of the gore, it will happen, but it's gonna take its sweet time getting there. This isn't really that type of movie. It's a journey following broken people trying to figure out what the hell happened and how to get some damn closure. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Prisoners in a sense. Because you have the tragedy, you have the person taking the law into their own hands, you also have the law, but they're spinning their wheels, they're taking their sweet time. And also like Prisoners, this has an ending that kind of made me go, why? Why did you spike the ball a yard before the end zone? Now, while the movie did piss me off, I just let out this sad, heavy sigh. Like, oh, all right, well, this could have been something truly amazing, but instead it just kind of whimpers at the finish line. It's like hearing a potentially amazing song. It builds slowly, and finally it hits that powerful note, and you're like, yes, let's go, and then it ends. It abruptly ends without finishing the payoff. It's like the weird trend teenagers were doing 5 or 6 years ago called edging. And I think that's probably the most mature, sophisticated way I can describe Weapons. It's edging. It's pleasurable right up to the finish, but then it stops. And that makes me sad. So I guess this is one of those films where you say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. I liked everything they built up, and I did like where it finally ended up going. It's just they didn't let it breathe, they didn't expand on it, they didn't go all out one way or the other, instead waffling through this final act, and I was just like, damn it, this was so freaking fun. Up until that last little tiny morsel. But again, it's 2 really well done, well executed hours of film. It's entertaining front to back. It's very pretty to look at. It takes place in modern times, but it has kind of this 90s aesthetic to it. The lighting's on point, the night shots look gorgeous. There's no fake CGI bullshit I could pick out in the film. It is just a well-crafted vehicle. And it was wise having the story take place in a small town. Everyone knows each other. It keeps things intimate. By having this puzzle built and then scattering the pieces all across the table, having the audience put this thing together, making the pieces fit was freaking enjoyable. And once the story shifts to the 3rd or 4th character deep, I'm really enjoying this because I know that it's all gonna tie together. I know that character C at some point will engage with character A, who already made something happen with character D, and it's all just kind of like circularly going around until it all fully forms into that puzzle. Now, while this isn't a scary movie, director Zach Kreger masterfully builds up a ton of tension. Whether it's a character slowly moving up to a window, trying to see through that slit of an opening, unsure of what's gonna greet her and us, the audience on the other side, or a scene where a junkie runs into the tent, zips it down, only to have to patiently wait and hope that whatever's chasing him on the other side doesn't pop on inside for a meet and greet. Another thing this script does that I really freaking enjoyed was just how many little sub-stories were going on in here. You follow the 6 or so characters, and they each have their own little side quests, baggage that they're dealing with at home. Their job might come into play, their relationship with the townsfolk, and just all this little world building that adds more breadcrumbs to the overall narrative. It works so freaking well, which is why the final moments, once again, are such a bummer for me, because I really like this movie, and it's the ones you love that can sometimes hurt you the most. At this point, Weapons is gonna end up on 2 of my lists for the end of the year wrap-ups. One of them will be my top 10 movies of 2025. The other list will be the top 10 biggest disappointments. And that's solely because Weapons is freaking awesome. It's a great movie. It just needed to hit that final note for me. But as it stands, it's a fun ass ride, and I highly recommend you go check this one out. Support this movie. And this is coming from a person who hated Barbarian. I take each movie on its own. All right, the sins of the father, not necessarily the sins of the son, even if it's the same writer and director. I give each movie a chance. This one did work. Number 1. Ryan Coogler is back, or the Cougs as I call him, for that one time only and never again. And this time he's bringing with him not some stupid Black Panther sequel, but another actual film. But he did bring with him Michael B. Jordan, and he must have felt bad that he didn't give Killmonger some more time to shine in the second Black Panther film, so he gave Michael B. Jordan 2 roles in this one. The movie I'm covering today is called Sinners. It's R-rated, over 2 hours long, and I believe it's an original story. With Cougs back at the helm, you're bound to have a good movie on your hands, but outside of him, you go for Michael B. Jordan. You come for Haley Steinfeld. You stay for Haley Steinfeld. It's kind of slipped there. This isn't a highbrow channel. This film takes place in the 1930s, in Mississippi. Not an ideal time for Black people in America. But that's not gonna stop a couple hungry entrepreneurs. They go by the names Smoke and Stack. Put them together, it's a smokestack. I can relate to the nickname thing. I also have a brother, and my mom would often say, "You're disappointing and you're a mistake." So disappointing mistake kind of became the thing around the house. Anyway, Smoke and Stack returned to their hometown, estranged for 7 years, living life in the big city. And they brought with them massive stacks of cash and some ideas. They're gonna open themselves a nice little club on the outskirts of town. And this is gonna be a safe place for their folks to come have a drink, do some dancing. It's gonna be a regular hootenanny. It's gonna be an impressive soiree. A good old-fashioned shindig. Now, getting this club up and running is gonna take some convincing from folks in the town. It's gonna require searching out talent, and it may include fending off evil vampires. If you are familiar with the film From Dusk Till Dawn, then you have seen a version of this movie before. However, I believe Sinners is far and away better. I really enjoyed my time with this flick. It's part mob movie, part horror thriller. Occasionally it'll dabble into the musical, and it even sprinkles a little Django Unchained in there for good measure. Coogler is clearly a fan of Tarantino. Now, I have not looked at reviews for this movie. I don't need to. I already know what critics are gonna say. It's a slow burn. It's gonna take its time. All bets are off in the final act, and these are all true statements. It is gonna take its time. It is, I guess, a slow burn, but I found myself just as interested in the first half as I was in the crazier second. In fact, I would have been perfectly fine if they didn't have any of the supernatural elements at all, and we were just a straight up gangster film. Following these two brothers as they flash their dirty money around, and they use it to build up an oppressed community. That's compelling by itself. The vampire stuff's just a cherry on top. But use this review as a way to set expectations. Don't go into this movie thinking it's gonna be this all-out, non-stop action horror film. It's not that. No, it's building a story. You're getting to know a lot of characters, some of their backgrounds, and that really helps drive the later act of the film when you're concerned for these people. Because Coogler has crafted a smart story here. This isn't your dumb, by-the-numbers Blumhouse affair where you're watching a bunch of dumb-as-rock dipshits make stupid decisions and then get themselves killed. And in those films, I honestly can't wait for them to die. Often, I'm rooting for the villain to just get it over with, put them out of their misery. But in Sinners, you're with people you enjoy. You like these folks, even if they're flawed, which a lot of them are, especially the two brothers. And Michael B. Jordan is always terrific. Here is no exception. He effortlessly bounces dialogue between himself like he really is two different characters. And Coogler has the balls, has the earned ego at this point to film this actor next to himself, handing items to the other. Like he'll bum a cigarette from himself. Oh, here you go, other me, thanks. Here, let me get that for you. That's insane. Is it a deep fake? Are they having a different guy with the same body and then just making the face look different? What are they doing here? I don't know. It's movie magic and I appreciate it. Acting spot on, all the supporting characters, terrific. I like the villains in the movie. They're kind of jovial, they're pleasant to be around villains. You almost kind of want to hang out with them for a while. Cougar respects vampire lore. These guys aren't sparkling out in the sunshine during the day. No. Sun kills them. Garlic's bad. They don't like crosses. Like pretty much all the staples are there with a little bit of the Coog's own recipe baked in. I mentioned this is borderline a musical at points. The music is fire in this thing. It's absolutely bangers. We have folksy music, there's blues music, there's the actual score for the movie that's awesome as hell. I love that theme song. He's got experimental shit going on where old-timey music is blending with modern day stuff. Oh, there's a scene in this movie that I really appreciated where it's kind of a one take. It looked like a one shot that goes for a minute or so and it pans around the crowd and things are happening. People are in and out of frame. It's clear he put his heart into this one. It's on the screen. Now, with all the praises that I've given so far, there is one hang up, and I don't necessarily know if it's the fault of the cinematography. I'm willing to say it's a theater issue, but that might be a problem that lingers in your viewing too. This is a very dark picture. The lighting is very dim. A lot of it takes place at night. There is some heavy contrast work going on with those shadows and light sources, which can be beautiful for sure. But I went back and watched the trailer after I saw this in theaters, and the trailer is pretty dim looking as well, but it's also a very sharp, high resolution picture. So even when it's darker at night, you still can make things out pretty clearly. In my movie theater, it was dim, it was kind of hard to see, and the crispness that you had in the trailer was not present in the final product. And again, I think it's a theater thing, but my only worry is there's a lot of older theaters and they might not be prepared for a movie such as this. As I mentioned previously, this is a smart script. It's not your dumb paint-by-numbers situation, and with that comes layered commentary. What does it mean to be an evil person, a sinner, if you will? How does that manifest itself? How do you escape your past and make a better future? There are a lot of different themes going on, and putting them in the framework of the 30s in Mississippi with this group of people and these demon vampire creatures going after them really does do something very unique for the genre. And then once again, Haley Steinfeld. It's just a lot of positives here. I went to a pretty early showing on a Thursday. Not a lot of people go to that time, so it was a pretty empty house. I imagine this is going to do very well for Warner Brothers, though. We're going to see packed theaters this weekend. I hope so. We need movies like this to do well. That said, there were some people that left when the credits started to roll, and I'm pretty sure they were standing on the side going down the aisle, because not after a few credits come up, there is an epilogue, and you're gonna wanna stay for that. It's really damn good. Well, there you have it, my ranking from worst to best on the 2025 horror films I've watched this year. Plenty more to come, especially with October now upon us. Once again, I would encourage you to subscribe to Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. That way you won't miss a future video. And I would appreciate it as I post movie reviews, rants, live streams, everything movies all the time. All right, that's all I got for you. Hopefully I see you soon. Take care. Oh, wow, you're still here. Well, since I have you, maybe think about jumping by the old merch store, Adam Does Movies, and pick up one of these Adam Does Movies Halloween tees. It's got Jason on the cover there on the logo, a little Friday the 13th inspiration in time for the holidays. On top of that, maybe think about becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/Adam Does Movies to really help support this one-man band. And that way I can afford to actually put out some candy this year for the trick-or-treaters and not just an empty pumpkin with a sign that says take one only. Implying that some fat little crap took all of them and left right away. Okay, that's all I got. Take care.